Good morning. I'm Kara Fogarty with the Nonprofit Institute. I think I know mostly everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have 21 people registered. We're nowhere near that number at this point, so people may still pop on. We are recording this class. Right now, we are recording our classes and making them available to folks who registered who may not be able to join at the time. But we have a really great class set up today. Special event success, Fundraiser with Susan Vogel and Kristen Kaufman, and I will come back to them momentarily. Just a couple of things I want to go through, and that is give a quick mention about our upcoming classes. As you know, today's class is free. We have classes also scheduled in May and June. They are free as well, and they are virtual. And then we come back in the fall with more classes, and they will be virtual too. However, we can't offer everything for free forever. We did that during COVID. But we're looking at trying to have a lower cost than we did in the past. Even though it was low cost to begin with, we're looking to go lower simply because nonprofits, the demands on your funds are tremendous. So the other thing is, as a lot of you know, but maybe not everybody, we do have the monthly meetings for the PR marketing group, the fundraising group, and the volunteer coordinators, as well as our monthly community calls. And those are still going strong. And if you've never joined and you think you might want to, feel free. There's no sign up. You just, the info's in our newsletter. You can always shoot an email to nonprofit@csmd.edu and get the Zoom info. But those are free, open to anyone, and they are phenomenal for participants. What we've seen over the past year is tremendous collaboration. And the borders in Southern Maryland sort of falling away because by being on Zoom, no one has to drive and people can collaborate together. And I'm seeing organizations in Charles connect with organizations in St. Mary's. And it's really, it's just a wonderful thing that is, I guess, the silver lining of COVID. So that's good. So, just want to reiterate that those meetings are open to all and everyone is welcome at any time. The other thing I just wanted to mention also is our COVID resource page is still going strong. We're still updating it every week. And I would suggest keeping an eye on that rather than you trying to figure out what money is out there for you. We do that for you. And there is a lot of money coming in the pipeline now, a ton of money. So you want to keep an eye on that because that is, hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars coming specifically for nonprofits to all the counties in the state of Maryland through the Maryland Recovery Now Act. Plus, there's all kinds of federal money, and there's so many different programs and different relief things that I don't know anybody who can keep track of it all. Okay, so we're doing the high level ones that sort of apply to all nonprofits. But, there are things for humanities. There are things for housing and eviction, rental assistance. There are things for, I can't remember, but there's so many specific. So we're going to focus on the high level things. And there is, like I said, a lot of in Charles, Calvert, and St. Mary's should be opening up within the next 2 weeks. And those are going to be like the ones last summer, which are pretty easy to get. So, play in our sandbox, stay in touch, check that COVID resource page. I will throw it in the chat at some point this morning. And just wanted to give that info. So now on to our class. I'm going to give a little intro and background about both of our instructors. And then we're going to do a little bit of introductions of everybody on the call. And the thing, I think what we need to do is keep muted, okay? Just so we don't hear your lives in the background. Keep muted. And when Kristen and Susan are doing their presentations and that sort of thing. If you have any questions, toss them into the chat and we will get to them. And then after, we're going to take 2 breaks, I believe, or is it 3? I have to quickly look. 3 breaks. Susan's going to do a presentation, then we'll have a break. Kristen, then we'll have a break. And then there'll be some more things. And then the last part of the class, we're going to do some Q&A and a group discussion. So there will be time to actually, ask questions, and you don't have to come on camera if you don't want to. That's fine. But it's pretty casual, and, don't hesitate to speak up, raise your hand, or throw a question into the chat, and we'll just take it easy. As you know, we're not all the most formal. We want everyone to feel comfortable, and so we keep it pretty casual. So with that, I would like to share some information about our 2 instructors today. Susan Vogel is the newly appointed development officer for the Melanoma Research Foundation. She has an extensive career in healthcare philanthropy, and some of you may know, prior to joining MRF, she served as the executive director of the Charles Regional Medical Center Foundation in La Plata. That's the philanthropic arm for Charles County's only hospital. She was also the director of development at the Anne Arundel Medical Center Foundation, and once worked as an events director for the Maryland chapter of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. She's a native of Charles County, and she served on the board of directors for a number of nonprofits, including the Charles County Chamber of Commerce, the Zonta Club of Charles County, and the ARC Southern Maryland. She's a 2009 graduate of Leadership Southern Maryland and a past board chairman of that organization. So in her spare time, which she actually has some, in her spare time, travel to the Delaware Shore, read, listen to music, keep up with family and friends. She's been married to her husband for 28 years. They have 2 children, and recently welcomed a daughter-in-law to the family. So welcome, Susan. We're really happy that you would agree to do this and have you here and share your knowledge and insight and wisdom. Next, we have Kristen Kaufman. She's the Chief Marketing Officer at the Cedar Point Federal Credit Union. And she is also the chair of the board of directors for Southern Maryland Community Resources. And if you're not familiar, that's a nonprofit that creates events, opportunities, and experiences for community members with developmental differences in Southern Maryland. She has helped to organize and fundraise for the Solomon's Dragon Boat Festival, the Solomon's Plein Air Festival. I don't know if I said that word correctly. And the Bucks County Playhouse Student Theater Festival, among other events. She's currently studying for her certification as a credit union certified marketing executive through the Credit Union National Association. She recently led the credit union through a brand discovery process, reimagining the credit union's values and brand promise to better serve its members, employees, and the community. She has a master's degree in business administration from the University of St. Mary and a bachelor's from Muhlenberg College. And recently she received the Dora Maxwell Award for Social Responsibility and Community Service through the Credit Union National Association and the MDDC Credit Union Association. That's a lot of info. It's great. But Kristen, thank you. We're really glad that you have joined us today and agreed to do this and share your insight, knowledge, and wisdom. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like everyone to introduce themselves, and rather than everybody come on all at once, I'll just run down the list here. And when I call your name, come on, or at least speak, introduce yourself, tell us who you're with, and you can do the 30-second elevator speech, and feel free. So I'm just going to go down the list of participants as they appear. And so first up, we have Amy Ford.
Good morning. I'm Amy Ford. I'm a branch manager with St. Mary's County Library at Lexington Park. And I'm also the president of the board of the Literacy Council of St. Mary's.
Great, thank you. Danielle Jones.
Good morning, everyone. I am Danielle Jones of Center for Children in La Plata, Maryland, and I also am the partner agency rep for United Way of Charles County. So, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How about Doreen? I don't know if I said that correctly. Kleinsorgen? And maybe she's busy.
Good morning.
Oh, there she is.
There we are. Okay, I had to unmute. I'm new at this kind of thing. I'm with Christmas in April, St. Mary's County. I'm the executive director. Christmas in April has been helping the county for 31 years this year. And this year we're going to have our Christmas in April Day on May 22nd. We're trying to put it off a little to see if the COVID restrictions have changed any, which I'm not sure that's going to happen. But anyway, that's what we're trying to do this year. So good morning to everyone.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And Lydia, how about?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lydia Biliowska. I'm with Southern Maryland Center for Independent Living. We help individuals with disabilities live more independent lives, any age, any disability, support consumers in all 3 counties. And of course, we love collaborating with the Charles County, with the college. So we're very excited. I'm very excited to be here and learn more about fundraising. And I'm working from home or outside of home. Hopefully the weather gets better.
Great. Thanks for joining us this morning, Lydia.
Yeah.
How about Michelle? And I'm going to take a guess. Inderiden?
Close. Hi, I'm Michelle Inderiden, and yes, I'm actually in Colonial Beach, Virginia. I am the vice president of membership and engagement for the Colonial Beach Community Foundation. But my actual paid work is with the Rappahannock Community College through their educational foundation. So I'm all over the nonprofit. And I was a Charles County native for about 30 years and moved to Colonial Beach almost 4 years ago. So I'm just across the river. I can see Swan Point from here. So
you can see us. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Rosanna.
Hi, I'm Rosanna Vogt. I'm the founding director of the Circle of Angels Initiative. Oh man, I've got a real iffy internet connection. We propel people from poverty to prosperity.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And Susan Brookbank.
Hi, I'm Susan Brookbank. I'm the director of the Literacy Council of St. Mary's, and I am thrilled that you are going to stay virtual.
Yeah, in fact, we've talked about it. Even if we do one day, someday, go back in person for our meetings and our classes, we want to have the virtual option. Because, it's just so much easier for a lot of people. Finally, and not lastly, Michelle Sullivan.
Hi, my name is Michelle Sullivan. I have the pleasure of working alongside Kara Fogarty at the Nonprofit Institute. And tomorrow, just as an FYI, is the Volunteer Coordinators Affinity Group at 10 a.m. And I would welcome any of you on that call. With that, I'll give it back to you, Kara.
Sure. Michelle is also like all things about money. Grants and funding, and she runs a monthly fundraising call. We can't include every single thing in our newsletter, so it's pretty awesome the stuff she can offer in the meeting. So you might want to keep an eye out for that. Anyhow, I think we're at 11 of us, including Susan, Kristen, me, and Michelle. So who knows, maybe we'll have some people pop on during this and we'll just go from there. But this is kind of typical when there's no fee involved, right? You sign up for something and then you forget about it, or life changes or what have you. No big deal. At the end, I'll have a couple of housekeeping things to run down, and we should be all good to go. So we had an agenda set up, and now we're going to be 15 minutes ahead of time. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to play it by ear. And if we end up ending early, that's not such a bad thing. As long as we get all the content covered and we get all your questions answered, we will be good to go, I think. Right? Sounds good. Okay, so what I will do is I will let Susan start. And go ahead, take it away, Susan.
Good morning, everybody. Kara, thank you so much for the introduction. I know a few of you all, but again, my name's Susan Mudd-Vogel. Welcome to my living room. I was supposed to be in my office today, but when I woke up, it wasn't so sunny and it was pretty dark in my office. And I thought, you don't want to see a dark version. Today's supposed to be a nice day, a lot of innovation and thinking. So I came down to my living room where you see a little bit of Southern Maryland here with an old tobacco basket. So here I am, and I'm really glad to be engaging with each of you all today. I love the different kinds of industries that we're representing today with literacy, poverty, and some environmental things. It's just very humbling and rewarding to be able to see so many vibrant nonprofits in our region, not just our small Charles County, but over again in Virginia with Michelle and everybody else. So I'm hoping this morning is going to be a little bit of a collaboration. I'm actually going to be giving two presentations. One is on the way in which the Charles Regional Medical Center pivoted with our largest event, which is the wine tasting. And then I'll talk a little bit about the national scale of the Melanoma Research Foundation, which is where I've been since October. And then in the second presentation, I'm going to talk about friend raising. I know that's an important part of what we do. Sometimes it's an afterthought, and it really should be kind of a cornerstone and foundation of what we do. Just some housekeeping tips too. I am not a good bus driver, which means I may get stumbly with my presentation. So I'm going to apologize for that in advance. I did give the presentation in its entirety to Kara. So if you'd like a copy, you can request it. That won't be a problem. And I provide my contact information afterwards, so you can reach out. You can put stuff in the chat and we can talk about it kind of as we go along or when it's time for Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully I get this right. Let's see here. Okay. Can everybody, I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm hoping that everybody can see that. Kara, you can tell me if we're good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. So the title of the presentation is Special Event Success, Fundraiser versus Friendraiser. And I'm your presenter. Just a little bit about the Charles Regional Medical Center Foundation. If you know anything about Charles County, you know that our hospital wasn't always called this. It was previously called Savista Medical Center. And prior to that, it was called Physicians Memorial Hospital. Founded in 1926. It came to be, the hospital came to be as a result of the first big tornado that came through our county and wiped out a good part of our then community in the 1920s. And it was 1939 when our hospital opened its doors as Physicians Memorial Hospital. So we actually celebrated our 80th anniversary a couple years back, and I was part of that celebration. But the Medical Center Foundation is really the philanthropic arm of Charles County's only hospital. I've watched it grow over the last 20 years when I was executive director of that foundation. And fun fact, I didn't know this when I took the job back in 1999, but when I went into the boardroom, I noticed a picture of all the previous chairmen of the board. And there's my grandfather in photo number 5, Francis DeSales Mudd. So I loved knowing that I was a part of the legacy of the hospital in some small way. We are a $6 million organization. That's just the foundation. The medical center is about a $50 million organization. And I don't want you to think that we're $50 million strong, as in that's what's in our bank account. That's how much it costs to run a hospital of our size through any given fiscal year. So we were a $6 million organization, and we were very event centric. And what I mean by that is that the majority of the revenues for the foundation came through 5 major fundraisers. We had a wine tasting event, we had a crab feast, we had a gala, we had a golf tournament, and we had a small memorial event around the holidays called the Christmas Tree of Life. So small office of just 3 people, myself at the helm, a really strong board, lots of volunteers, and again, event centric, which did not help so much during the pandemic, as you can imagine. So the challenge that we're going to talk about today is the Charles Regional Medical Center's wine tasting event, which was really our signature fundraiser. I'll give you an example. When I started in 1999, I came to a board that was so proud that they had just hosted their first major fundraiser with the wine tasting. They had raised $7,000 and they had spent $6,000 doing it. So they had a net profit of $1,000. Flash forward to 2019, when this event generated about $175,000 in revenue. We spent about 68 getting there for a net of well over $110,000. So we came a long way in transforming this event to a premier event in the region. But obviously, when 2020 came along and the pandemic started in March, there was a lot of uncertainty for all of us with spring and summer 2020 planning. Obviously things were closed at that point in time. People thought, oh, this is going to blow over in a couple weeks. And it was at that point in time when I was thinking to myself, what if this doesn't blow over? We've got to plan now for what our fall looks like. We need to plan now for what our winter looks like. And albeit trying to manage that strategic plan while we were in the throes as a hospital of COVID. And I'm talking about the fact that I had to drive a little yellow wagon around nearly every day from the hospital foundation's office over to the medical center with baked goods that people were delivering over. So the distraction of COVID put me in the weeds for generating patient care and staff care during COVID. So it was kind of hard to plan this, what we were trying to do. At that time, our venue was closed. We were at the Port Tobacco Courthouse, and that's a county-owned historic site. And we really needed also to consider, do we change the location of the signature fundraiser? Where would we go? What does that look like? We had been there for a decade, and it's hard to imagine going to another place that we had called home for the last 10 years. There's so many logistics that go into our event. Also, we needed to focus on what I'd consider to be the public perception as a not-for-profit in a healthcare institution, right? So if our board is saying, oh gosh, we have to have this event, we need to fundraise, and how does that look to the community that the hospital that's supposed to be protecting our community from disease is now hosting an event that is bringing people together? So how does that look and feel to the public? So it became a question of, can we host it? Should we host it? And at that point in time, you guys might remember that the words hybrid and virtual, they weren't really even a thing, or words and phrases. So I'm going to give you guys a couple lessons along the way here. Lesson 1 for me was be like the duck. So the duck is kind of calm and unruffled on the surface, but under the water, we are paddling like heck, trying to scramble and figure out everything we can do, and not making sure that people around you know the stress or the chaos that's ensuing, underneath the waters. So our event was one of the most anticipated fall fundraisers. We really had over about 1,000 or more guests, probably about 1,200 people when you think about the volunteers and the vendors that would come onto the site. It was an outdoor tented event. We had 12 or more food vendors, 30 wines and beverages that were delivered from about 12 to 15 wine and beer purveyors, and then an auction, a silent auction that had 75 or more items, and a revenue budget of $175,000. So I really didn't want to, cancel. And so we didn't. We actually tried to transform the event, and our team, small team of 3, along with some key board members, kept the date, made it curbside, and called it the to-go edition of the CRMC wine tasting. And I have to tell you, in March, April, May, we weren't quite sure if people who were used to coming to our event because they love the atmosphere, they love the ambiance, they love the interaction, they love the high quality, they love the 4-hour open bar and all the free food that came with the ticket price. We weren't quite sure how this was going to go, but I didn't want to take a lap. I didn't want to concede to this pandemic. I wanted to offer something that the community could either get behind if they wanted to or feel safe in doing it. And I also knew that supporting the hospital at a time like this was a very important thing for our community to rally behind because of our staff, our frontline workers, and all that we were doing to help save lives, treat the COVID patients, and take care of our staff at the same time. So we did an online component for non-ticket holders also. So, you're going to have those people that are going to say, I see what you're doing, but I'm not interested. I really liked coming to, get plastered with my friends for the evening. So I'm just not going to come. But maybe they loved the auction idea or they loved getting merchandise from us. So we had an online auction component and an online merchandise component, which I'll share in a little bit. And the most important thing to us was to keep things like COVID friendly, a safe and socially distant event. And I mean that in every sense of the word, because our fear was that anybody was going to come to our curbside event and notice that we weren't adhering to guidelines. We weren't adhering to safety. And we are supposed to be the health and safety, leader in our region. So we organized scheduled pickups so we could pace the cars and the people that were coming. We did pre-sales only so we would know our volume and then could control those pickups. And then we ensured that our staff and volunteers had the proper PPE and were wearing the proper PPE before, during, and after the event to ensure their safety. And again, to give the perception to our guests and sponsors that we meant what we said when delivering this curbside to go event in a safe way. There were some pros and cons, of course, to any event that you do. And so I'll just talk about the pros. The pros were we were able to, I think, successfully deliver a creative approach and deliver this event to the community at a time when they were probably looking for something to do. And I say that because what we learned as we were planning is that the county fair got canceled and the Lobster Rotary Festival at the fairgrounds got canceled. Everything was kind of shuttering, as you know. And we, again, were able to produce this event in September when people were looking forward to something, anything. And so that created a buzz, and we kind of got the lion's share of the market because nobody else was, having to promote their events. They were basically having to say that they were canceled, kind of a one and done. And it also gave us an opportunity to expand a traditionally sold out event. We've always had pre-sales at our fundraiser. We've never had at the door tickets for the last decade because we want to make sure that everybody who attends has a chance to have all the food before it runs out or have all the wine before it runs out, and we can plan accordingly. We learned that lesson one year when we had a beautiful weekend. Not a lot was going on, and we ended up with 150 people at the door buying tickets. And we kind of lost our momentum, if you will, because our sponsors and our vendors kind of ran out of food and they were embarrassed. And we said, don't be embarrassed. You provided food for 1,000 people and we had 1,200. So we learned our lesson the hard way of restricting the amount. But this way, really anybody could come and there was no limit necessarily for tickets as long as you bought them in advance. And then to have the auction online and to have our merchandise sales online, people could feel like they could participate without even, getting dressed up or taking time away from their Saturday to attend a 4-hour fundraiser. And then it really was an opportunity to engage with donors and sponsors in a unique way. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Some of these people that came in September, we hadn't seen them since March or April. probably since our gala, which we actually held February 29th. We like got that in by the seat of our pants, and while other people in March had to cancel their galas. The cons that we had to consider, and they probably kind of outweighed the pros, was really the anticipated loss of sponsorship revenue due to the lack of opportunities. So what I mean by that is I view any event as kind of real estate, right? And you have opportunities to sell portions of your event to sponsors to get their visibility and recognition. So we could sell our centerpieces and say the centerpieces were donated by X, Y, and Z company. The tents were provided and we could get them named. We had transportation. Keller Bus would transport all our folks from the government center in La Plata to our site and back, free shuttle back and forth, because parking is an issue down at the space we are, especially in soggy weather. And so we had a transportation sponsor. Well, as all of those things weren't materializing, we were losing opportunities at $5,000 a clip. And without a real strong way to gain all of those back. I think at the height of our event, we normally would have about 12 of those opportunities, and we really could only identify about 5. So if you think 12 times 5 is $60,000, and 5 times 5 is only $25,000, you're already minimizing your opportunity. So we also just didn't know the threshold of our sponsorships, because some of them were bartered. So we would trade out, say, a landscaping contract for a sponsorship. And of course, we didn't need landscaping this year to transform our event. So what did that look like for the sponsor who was used to always entertaining their crowd? The hurting restaurant industry, our food partners, my goodness. We were used to having 10 and 12 food sponsors set up tents and entertain our guests and get visibility for their restaurants. And of course, with many of them closed and losing their revenues, we were unsure how we were even going to approach them, and if they got involved, at what level, and also what did September look like for COVID restrictions. We also had a risk of perception by the community for hosting the fundraiser amid the pandemic. I have to tell you that was always on my mind, and I always wanted to have an elevator speech or a predictive response to our guests. And I have to say, I'm gonna knock on wood right here, that really never materialized. People didn't question that we were doing it. They were grateful that we were, and they became appreciative of our willingness to do it under restrictions in a safe environment. And then also just the challenging logistics, where were we going to host this? How are we going to do it? How would we communicate? What's the flow look like? How do we get the food? All those things that come into play as you all were dealing with your own events. So the struggle is real. I recognize that. And we went and tried to carry on. Lesson 2. So behind every adversity, there's an opportunity. If you lament over the adversity, you'll miss the opportunity. That became like a favorite quote of mine. Someone shared it with me, and I just kept thinking of those words, adversity and opportunity. So we tried to, again, turn lemonade from all the lemons that we were getting. And I know you guys will agree that pandemic can be spelled in different ways, right? So there's the adversity way, and then there's the opportunity way. So we learned about the words connect. We learned about the words conversation, scheduled time, hybrid, engagement, platform, virtual, and then, opportunity, strategic, tactic. And there's probably a host of other words that you all can think of that we've had to use, especially that word pivot. I don't like that word pivot, but think about the other words that you have used in the last year, and maybe think about putting some of those in the chat box if I've missed any. So now we'll go through kind of my thought on from adversity to opportunity. The online auction showcased the day of the event, and we did social media posts to enhance the bidding. So we would go on Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of our vehicles, and showcase with pictures and kind of live video some of the events that we had, and then some of the auctions that we had. And then we were able to put the auction online And then on the day of the curbside event, what we did is, you'll see in the last picture, we showcased and kind of set up the auction. People couldn't get out of their cars and bid on it because it was all done online, but they could see and touch and feel, if they wanted to, some of the items and experiences that we had. We also left the auction open past the event for last minute bidding. So I think you remember me saying that our event was September 12th. I think we left it open for about a week, so that if people missed it, or they were just, curious as to how we were doing, they were able to, we could generate some more revenues and increase the bids by having the event last a little bit more. And so we were pleased with how that turned out. Another opportunity from adversity to opportunity is showcasing the sponsors. That was super, super important to us. You'll see in the top left picture was our board chairman at the time, Mary Lilly. And I'm showing you pictures of tote bags that we had commissioned that showed all of our sponsors, and thanked them in the different various levels. And we designed this tote bag with their logos, and we filled the tote bags with the wines and the ales that came with each donor or sponsor's participating level. And also some event merchandise that I'll talk about in a moment. And then we printed enough bags to provide the sponsors with extras as a thank you. So if you're a sponsor at the 5,000 level, normally you would get 12 tickets to our event. So you would get a bag with enough provisions for 12 of your guests. And you would also get a couple extra bags, just so you could take those back to your office or to your leaders and show what we were able to do for you. And we were really proud of this, because these bags are something that weren't just going to be something that, they were used to having their name on a tent for 4 hours at our event. Now they didn't have their name on a tent, but they have a tote bag that they can take everywhere and showcase that they were part of something pretty special. Our sponsors really, really love this. Another opportunity that we did where we thought of adversity had to do with the food sponsors. So guest and sponsor experience was our top priority. You'll hear me say that again and again. The way we approach the food, we actually thought about having a food tent when people would drive up to get their wine and their merchandise. And then we thought, no, we don't want people getting out of their cars. We don't want people hoarding over food. We would have to get the health department involved. And we also, again, didn't know what COVID restrictions would be for restaurants opening or closing at that point in time. And we wanted to keep them at their core business. So we developed a 2-sided passport for each participant. And it was basically a voucher, and it was from each food vendor. So you'll see on the top, each one of the details and kind of a contact information for each of the 8 sponsors that we had. And then on the bottom was the passport, and it talked about what you were going to be getting from the vendor. So for example, I'll shout out Pizza Hotline. You could get a pound of lasagna or a pound of fettuccine Alfredo. We also set the expiration date to December 31st. And this allowed our guests to utilize the offerings from these vendors at their leisure and without rush. And our vendors also appreciated this, because they thought, oh my goodness, we're going to get a rush of everything on September 12th. How are we going to manage? But they loved the idea that people were kind of coming and going throughout the fall. And, if you're going to Pizza Hotline for a pound of lasagna, you're probably going to get a salad. You're probably going to get some breadsticks. And so there was some revenue built into that. And then discounts were also offered to provide some value added experience. So, the Charles would say, if you bought an entree, you got a free appetizer. So there was a mix and mingle of our thoughtful food vendors. And we were able to give them some visibility at a time when they really couldn't market themselves. And again, this guest and sponsor experience, I think, ended up being something very positive. I'm going to repeat it again. Guest and sponsorship experience was our top priority. You'll see a picture of me with one of my favorite masks there, and actually one of my favorite board members, Chris Simpson. He's not wearing a mask because he probably had to take it off to speak to me. But We had pre-sales only to ensure that we could know our volume and that we could customize each package and set it up accordingly. So we would let the guests know what time they could come within an hour window of range. They would come in. We needed to card them, and we had everything ready for them. So it was kind of a plug and play, just pick up and go. And I'm holding there a fresh box from Grazy Girls, which is our charcuterie board company in Solomons that partnered with us. They were new this year, and they were the only ones that delivered fresh food to us so that our guests could have that front end experience for sponsors. And we assigned those time ranges to have smooth curbside service, limited lines, and that top guest experience. Wayfinding was also important. We had been directing people to the Port Tobacco courthouse for about a decade, and suddenly they were going to be coming to our office, which is on Garrett Avenue, across from the hospital and up from the library. But wayfinding was important and ensuring our guests had that positive experience. So they were welcomed, they were greeted, 6 feet apart, and we hand delivered items to them in their vehicles. We demonstrated proper PPE. We had to check all of our guests with IDs for valid proof because we were basically, a liquor distributing service at that time. And Colonial Liquors actually came, and they're a very strong partner of ours, and they worked to make that happen. They actually provided the ID checks and physically hand delivered the alcohol so that we could be in compliance with our liquor license. Social media and marketing was key to us in a way that we had never done it before, because we usually always had to compete with other marketing needs for the medical center. But since the medical center was really focused on education and not so many events, because they couldn't hold events for classes and things like that, we were really able to monopolize the social media and marketing, which was a blessing. So we did weekly updates to all of our followers. We did an engagement video where I got on and did an announcement and kind of showcased, like Vanna White, all of our auction items, and told people how to access our auction, how to arrive, how to purchase tickets, and everything like that. And then we had some cool partnerships and collaborations. The photo that you see on the left, we did really neat wine glasses, like plastic tumblers that were 16 ounces. And I make a point that they were 16 ounces because normally our liquor license would only allow us to do a 2-ounce pour at our event. And so in the absence of 4 hours of drinking with controlled pours, we could give our people this year, large glasses, and they were really appreciative of that. We also did these really cool blankets with the hashtag 6 feet apart. So those hopefully will be a collector's item. We branded those, and we got a sponsor for those as well. And then we partnered with Cabot Cheese, which has been a partner of ours for a while, but they again donated 25 boxes of all this assorted lovely cheese that would be paired with the wines. And we did a giveaway for 25 of our sponsors and guests through a random raffle, and delivered those packages to the winners. So those were kind of unique ways in which we could engage with our partners. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to stop. I think I'm going to talk about my transition in a minute, but I want to see about the chat, because I see the chat is kind of blowing up here.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments, but there's also a couple of questions.
So Kara, I can't pull that up right now. I don't want to get off my
can-
mojo here, but if you read the questions,
Yeah.
I will answer them. How's that?
Sure. Absolutely. I've been keeping an eye on it just so that.
Thank you.
Let me just, there's a lot of other stuff too. So let me go through here. And okay, just a couple of comments. Someone said that love that you look at events as real estate. That's a great perspective.
Absolutely.
Someone else.
I look at my hospital as real estate too. There's so many rooms and spaces in there. And so when we were renovating the hospital back in 2011, you had a doctor who wanted to put their name somewhere else. And so we accommodated them. And then another doctor would walk by and be like, well, I want that. I want that. So I became a real estate agent, but I didn't get any commission.
Let's see. The other one was, let me just find it. Someone else said, love the logo. Okay, the question was, what service or platform did you use for the auction?
Okay. I will tell you what I used. I'm always, well, let me back up. My boss, I pride myself on being frugal with fundraising, even though you all might think we're a big hospital and have this big budget. I'm always trying to make sure that we have the best bottom line possible. So we used a platform called 32auctions.com. It's the number 32auctions.com. And they have a free service actually for up to X number of auction items, and you can customize it. You can also pay a small fee to have more items or no ads, things like that. We had used it before and had some success. And I feel like at the end of the day, you're just going to drive someone to an auction and they're going to look at things and it becomes kind of a transaction. Didn't need to necessarily look pretty. I will tell you that there's a lot of other auctions sites out there that you do have to pay a premium for. And I just really wasn't willing to do that in this environment. So 32auctions.com is what we used.
Awesome. There was, I just wanted to add, the ARC Southern Maryland did an auction for their Giving Tuesday. And I'm not sure the name of their platform, but that is an organization you could reach out to find out.
I remember they did one actually. Renee Sigley, I think, is the director of development there. I actually used to sit on that board, and I was impressed that they did that. They had some good experiences.
Right. Okay, so that's good that you know, because I didn't know what they were using. Somebody asked, does 32auction.com communicate with each bidder in real time?
So no, it was a no, but what you have to do is you have to input your credit card information and things like that, and then it automatically checks you out, which was also really good. And then it connects like through PayPal to our bank. So we got paid pretty much right away, and then we just did the transaction. If people had questions, I guess I didn't actually, so somebody in my office was the one that was kind of organizing that piece. I don't know that there were many questions that people had. I think you can set an automatic bid to it. And then you could just check out. And everybody paid. We had a couple of items that got no bids, and we actually turned them into a small fundraiser for our staff. We just kind of did an online fundraiser for our staff for kind of like the leftovers. I will tell you about another organization that we have used when we were live, and it's called Text to Bid. And I think it's TEXT, the number 2, and then bid, texttobid.com. And that is a mobile, right? So it's all done on your phone. They take a percentage of your revenues. So does 32 auctions, but it's minimal and it's totally worth it. But when we had 1,000 people at our event, and think about all the bid sheets and the hoarding of people, waiting till the last minute to bid, we put everything online, and you could set a max bid and walk away. You could be over at the bar knowing and watching your items. You didn't have to go and watch and stand through. And again, all the money got collected right away. And you just came and picked up your items. We loved that technology. We actually had a software company, not a software company, an IT company come and give that space down there, that venue, a boost, an internet boost for Wi-Fi, so that we could make sure that people had a positive experience. So that was an undertaking of revenue. But again, when you're having an auction that's $25,000 or $30,000 and you have to pay a couple $1,000s for those processing, it's totally worth it because the bidding gets increased automatically. We could probably do a whole session just on online auction.
Yeah. There are no other questions.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and continue. And I'm realizing I have a typo because we're not in October 2021. We're in October 20 of last year when I had my position transition. So I made a decision in the summer actually to apply for the position of Chief Development Officer of the Melanoma Research Foundation. I don't know who changes jobs in the middle of a pandemic, but I did. I don't think I realized how stressed out I was at the medical center after 20 years, but this organization spoke to me. I'm very mission driven. And what the organization at MRF did not know is that my mother-in-law had been diagnosed last spring with melanoma. She's fine. She's getting her treatments, but I didn't even know that the MRF existed until someone popped into my LinkedIn and said, hey, are you interested in this job we're recruiting? And I thought to myself, this is the man upstairs knocking on my door. So I interviewed and was fortunate enough to get the role. And I gave about 5 to 6 weeks notice for my old job, but I made the transition in October to a national organization headquartered in DC. So now I get to be a big girl and go into the city after all these years. So this brings me to lesson number 3, and I'm calling it the post-game show. Life at the MRF and really how they are changing the game. So, here I was for 20 years working on what I called a local level. And then I saw ourselves as kind of a regional nonprofit, because the wine tasting was not just attracting people from Charles County, but from DC, Northern Virginia, the other parts of Southern Maryland, and even Southern Virginia. And we were kind of growing. And then I get to the MRF, and they are doing things with a 15-person staff, all over the country. And so I get to see things from a whole nother level, a whole nother platform. So, they do at their events, their galas, they do online auctions pretty much all the time, because they want everyone across the country to be able to bid while their guests are at the gala. They do virtual paddle bidding. They have text messages that they can get out to their constituencies. They have video production where they've learned that you can appear live on Facebook without even really being live. I didn't know that was a thing. And I also didn't know that Zoom can stream to Facebook. So I'm learning all these tips and tricks that I didn't know because of the small staff and the small scope that I had for our nonprofit. I also learned about the right tools. I'm not really using them today, but like lights, camera, action, having the right lighting, the right camera, and making sure that you're presenting yourself on a national stage. And then also just the resources of things like Adobe Creative Suite, and then utilizing Google, SharePoint, and those types of things. So these all may be terms or resources that you're currently using. I honestly wasn't at my job. And so I just really enjoyed the lift, if you will, to someone lifted the curtain for me and showed me all these things that you can do. And I love education and I love to learn. And so this really gave me a fresh approach to fundraising. I was very grateful. So here's a couple of examples I wanted to share with you. We have a program, a 17-city 5K that's called Miles for Melanoma. And one of the things that they do is they survey their guests. And really, we want to hear from them, but it's also just a tool for engagement. And I hadn't really looked at surveys in that way, because once people get back to you, you can start a conversation and get to know them a little bit more and thank them for completing the survey. And when you're in a fundraising organization, usually we're always asking for money. What we were asking for was their time. We were asking them for their advice and their guidance and their feedback. And so if you think of a survey tool in that way, when you all develop surveys through your own resources, it really can be a great mechanism for collecting information. The other thing that I learned was about Google documents. There's, a Google Drive. Many of you guys know all about this, but when we had to go to virtual fundraising, we had a virtual Miles for Melanoma in Philadelphia, and again, a couple different markets. When people would go online to register, it populated into a Google document that we maintained, and we could control all of the people, what their distance was, what their time was. They could report it in, and we were able to calculate that for awards and things like that. We could also capture additional data like their birth date or updated change of address. And this became a document that was very interactive as opposed to just a traditional spreadsheet. Another very interesting thing that I learned was about how to utilize Facebook, not only for education, but for fundraising. So normally we would have, conferences or symposias or support groups that we would host in person across the country. And in the absence of that, the team over the summer, while I was still at the Charles Regional Medical Center Foundation, They developed this unique series called Ask the Expert. And what they did is they brought in their physicians, brought in their surgeons, brought in their dermatologists, and we became a speaker series to engage guests online, either melanoma survivors, caregivers, supporters, just our advocates in general, on a variety of topics. And we might do something on getting their eyes dilated, or the importance of skin checks, or how to understand your genetic testing results. That's the one that you see right now. But look at the bottom. It says, Ask the Expert series presented by Castle Biosciences. This is a pharmaceutical company that saw what we were doing and said, we want in on this. We want to sponsor this. We want to get co-brand this with us. And when I tell you that we got a 4-figure gift and a 5-figure gift from some of these pharmaceutical companies to do this, we said, aha, we are changing the game here. We would normally be generating funds from a symposium that had sponsors or a conference that had sponsors. In the absence of that, we're taking this online and people want to support us in this way. So we're continuing this Ask the Expert series. I'm planning to do it with a financial advisory council when I launch some planned giving efforts later on this fall, and again, try to seek sponsorship from it. So there were some blessings and silver linings that came from this pandemic that I think people definitely need to realize. This is also a picture here of our gala series. This woman that you see her name is Dayanara, and she is a former Miss Universe. She is also a melanoma survivor, and she is helping to raise awareness about melanoma and helped us launch what's a very popular Get Naked campaign. And it's all about, showing your skin and making sure that you show your skin to your dermatologist every year. And so if you follow the MRF, you'll see, or if you do the hashtag Get Naked, you'll see that we have a number of people who participate in this, all in a very tasteful way. But Dayanara has lent us her celebrity endorsement and is working with us to set the bar in how we do this. So she's been part of our Ask the Expert series. She's been part of our gala series, and these beautiful colors that you see were the theme of our gala that we did virtual in Denver, Chicago, and New York this year. I didn't arrive till October, so I don't know how all of this turned out. I was fascinated by the way in which they transformed a national gala into a virtual one and raised about $1 million doing it. So hats off to my team for what they were able to accomplish with changing dates and getting things to become more virtual. But they use this platform that's called Givergy, Givergy, to be able to thank sponsors. There's a space for chats. There was a place to build in an auction there, showcase video, all sorts of things. And it was a really unique platform. It is expensive, but for the MRF, that brand awareness and that high quality look is something that's very important. And we do have to invest in that in order to deliver a quality product for some of our top wealthier donors. So this program is not for everybody, but it is for some national nonprofits that have the resources to do it. So that is kind of the end of my presentation. I'm going to leave this information up here for just a few minutes, but that's my email address and my phone number in case you want to reach out. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I think I'm within the time frame. And oh, look, Get Naked, so creative. Yes, it was. Makes me a little leery. I'm a Catholic girl, and so my mom was like, "What is this?" And I said I had to explain to her what that was. So anyway, that's my presentation. Right here at 10 o'clock, which is perfect. And I don't know if anybody has questions right now, or we can hold them till the end, Kara, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, there's no questions. There's a few, comments, but all positive. But there's no specific questions. But I think we had talked about at 10 o'clock taking a short 10-minute break.
Yes.
So let's do that. Everyone can run to the bathroom or the kitchen, wherever it is that you need to go. And we'll come back here at 10:10 and turn it over to Kristen.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So it's 10:10 and we are back. We've had a few people join us since we did our intros at the beginning of the class, and that's fine. We're glad you came. But we did go around and everyone introduced themselves, so we'd love for you to do the same. So I'm going to give a shout out to Marchesa. If you would like to, you don't have to do video, you can if you want. So there you are.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marquesa Whittington, and I am with Melwood in Upper Marlboro and Charles County as well. Is there anything else I should say?
No, I mispronounced your name. I'm sorry. I see it,
It's
I
okay.
write it, I never say it. So sorry about that. Tanea, I think I got that one right.
Hi, everybody. Tania Grenlin. I am the community liaison at Calvert Hospice. Is that all you want me to say, Cara?
That's fine.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're glad you could join us. And
Yeah, I play a huge role at Calvert Hospice with fundraising, so this is very helpful.
Great.
Hi, I'm Carmela Watkins. I'm with the Ivy and Pearls of Southern Maryland Community Charities in Charles County and St. Mary's County.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you could join us. A lot of familiar names in the class. So some of you probably know each other or know of each other. So that's good. And we're going to now resume and turn it over to Kristen.
Excellent. So just to introduce real quick, Bonnie Elward was supposed to be doing this, and she'd asked me to sub in for her, and I am extremely excited to be here presenting for you all. So let me share my screen here. Just as a heads up, thank you, Susan, for presenting an excellent pivot there. I know you don't like that word. I will use it also. But mine is going to be a little bit about the main event that we do, or more about that, and then the pivot after that. So you can sort of see the difference. What screen are you seeing? Are you seeing my presentation here?
Yep, we see Dragon Boat Festival.
Perfect.
Right,
Okay. Okay. Now let me just see if I can. My camera is over here and my presentation is on this screen, so I apologize if I'm not looking directly at you. And let me see if, okay, I can see myself. That's good too. There's a couple things I may hold up on the camera, so if I tell you to switch back to my face, you can switch back to the other. You can also see my face, right? Welcome to Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the Solomon's Dragon Boat Festival and the SMCR Dragon Quest, which is presented by Southern Maryland Community Resources. We'll discuss a little bit about myself. Thank you for the lovely intro, Kara, and I have just a little bit more there in terms of fundraising and experience there. We're going to talk about the cause a little bit, then we're going to talk about the festival and what I like to say, the questival. Which is our pivot. So here's just a few fun pictures. I have a lot of pictures in this presentation so that you won't get too bored. So this is a picture of me on the right as the drummer for the Dragon Boat Festival for my team. I have a BA and an MBA. I just finished my MBA in August. And I'm very much excited to be done with all of that work. And I'm also working on a certification that Kara mentioned. I do a lot of work in the community because I work at Cedar Point Federal Credit Union. We are always working with other organizations on here. You can see at the bottom, Doreen, I have Christmas in April on there. Every year we support Christmas in April, both St. Mary's County and Calvert County. And we'd certainly be interested in supporting in Charles County if anybody has a contact up there. I am the chair of Southern Maryland Community Resources, which puts on these events. And I also work with the Newtown Players because, as you can see, my BA is in theater and music. I made a transition to marketing about 5 years ago because I really, Susan, I really enjoyed my working with Adobe Creative Suite. I was in Photoshop and I was having a really good time making promotional posters. And I thought,
well, wouldn't I be good at marketing? And so I just decided to try my hand at it. And that's where I am now. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Cedar Point Federal Credit Union. And this picture of me is as the team captain and the drummer. I'm no good at paddling in a dragon boat. I figured that out my first year. So I decided I was better at yelling at people, which you can see here. So SMCR, I think it's important, which we'll get into a little bit, but it's important to know what cause you're supporting, because sometimes we can get a little bit lost in the event itself, and we maybe stop remembering who we're supporting, what we're supporting, and why we're supporting them. So Southern Maryland Community Resources creates events and opportunities for people with disabilities, people with and without disabilities in our community. And we emphasize access for those with developmental differences and other disabilities. And we promote inclusion into the life of our community. So we try our best to have our events including both people with and without disabilities, so that we can work on our social skills. I just little anecdotal thing. I teach a theater class for SMCR, so we pivoted to virtual classes. At that point, some of you may know Therese Thiedemann. She's been on some of these Nonprofit Institute calls. She wasn't able to be here today, but she runs our programs. So she asked me if I would teach a theater class, and I said, of course I will. So that's fun. You can see there at the bottom, it was an open mic night on the left, and that's me. Okay, so moving on to the Solomon's Dragon Boat Festival. So this is our one big fundraiser a year. I'm sure, like Susan, you get focused. You have these little tiny things throughout the year. You're making 1,000 or 2,000 here and there. As a nonprofit, sometimes that's what we have to do. But it's nice to have one big event that brings in a whole chunk of money for you. And this is our major fundraiser. So what is dragon boating? It's old. It goes back 2,000 years. It dates back to China, and it's born out of a legend. So I won't go into the details of the legend, but there's a lot of mystery and fun surrounding it, surrounding the history of it, which is what made it, the lore sort of made it grow and grow and grow all over the world. So our festival in particular is a very family oriented. It's not necessarily for kids. We're not putting kids in the boat, but the kids, there's always children's events. There's craft and food vendors. We have entertainment. We have an announcer who is talking all day long. It's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. or depending on how many teams we have, it may go a little bit longer, a little bit shorter than that. We have a dotting of the eye ceremony the night before. So this event is on a Saturday. The dotting of the eye is on the Friday night before. And in most years, we have a VIP reception, which we've decided to forego this year because of pandemic concerns. We typically do that at a hotel, and we're able to celebrate our sponsors in that way. We get free, we get food donated from local vendors and sponsors, and we celebrate them there. But since it's indoors, we've decided this year we're not going to do that. And we haven't heard any grumbling about it yet, so we'll see. So this is just a little overview of the festival at a glance. We have practice week from Monday to Thursday. Typically the VIP reception is on the Sunday before. Then we have a practice week in the evenings after work for all of our teams. Then Friday we have the Dotting of the Eye Festival and the Flash Mob. And then on Saturday is race day. Obviously Saturday is the big event, but we want to do as much as we can to give our sponsors as much opportunity for exposure as possible. And we want to give our sponsors, our vendors, and our teams maximum exposure opportunity. So if they can be involved in things throughout the week, not necessarily required to be there, but at events where we can say, this event is sponsored by so-and-so, this event is, the event to thank our sponsors. So it just puts their name out there more and more, and it also gives them more impetus to sponsor us and give us money, which is what we're here for, right? Okay, and just some of these details, not as important to you probably at this moment, but it's important to the sponsors when you go back and you say, this is how many people attended our event. This is how many people saw our Facebook post. You can find those things very easily online. And if your website has analytics on it, or you run Google Analytics, you can see how many people visited your website during the event or leading up to the event. So we always like to show them that we've got a lot of community, we've got volunteers, we've got a lot of people involved, their logo shows up everywhere, so these are some important statistics. Okay, I want to get into some of the nitty gritty about this because this is what we care about, right? Making money for our people, for our events, and so that we can support our cause. So you have to really think, what are you going to spend money on? Because if you're spending more than you're making, very much like Susan said, if you're making $7,000 and spending $6,000, was that really worth all of the effort that you put into it? So you really have to plan in advance. So for expenses, break it down for yourself. I know it's hard if you're a one-person show doing a lot of work, but making sure you know the difference for your taxes. I know we don't all pay taxes in the same way, but your tax preparer will thank you for this, or your 990 preparer, which I have there at the bottom. So having the boats and instructors for us is the biggest expense. That can cost us anywhere from $24,000 to $30,000. So we had to say, if we're going to spend $30,000 just to get the boats here, we need to make a lot more. How are we going to do that? Merchandise, we have to buy merchandise and then resell it at a price point that makes sense for us. Insurance costs us money. All our operating expenses, advertising, race logistics, that really includes where are we going to store all of our stuff? Do we have a closet that we can use, or do we have to rent a storage unit? Food, are we going to feed all of our 200 volunteers on the day of? Facilities, parking, trash, you got to think of all these things, especially if you're dealing with the county, who is going to want you to have somebody cleaning up trash. He's going to want you to have porta potties on site, extra bathrooms, always important. And then, paying for your entertainment, audio, visual, and the awards at the end, because it's really important to the teams to have, recognition. Not just you put my logo on your website and your social media, but I won this race. I deserve a crystal, which is why I put that picture there. Our sponsors receive really nice awards at the end of the festival, and some of them even we take back every year, and then we etch the new winner on it. So it's kind of like a cup that gets passed around from year to year. And don't forget to be nice to your 990 preparer, because I don't know if you've ever seen that form, but it is a beast. And especially if you're making all this money, if this is your major income driver, which this is for us, we really need to be careful to record it correctly. So our income, here's the important stuff, right? Donations versus sponsorship. This is important for your sponsors. We'll get into this later in the other presentation. But it's important for your sponsors to know, because especially if it's a for-profit company that is sponsoring you, they have to record their donations differently than their sponsorships. Is it advertising? Is it just a straight up donation where we're not expecting anything? Those things go on their taxes differently. So that's important to them. Merchandise sales do things have to be taxed? Maybe not. Maybe we have, because we have tax exemptions. That's great. But you have to pay attention to that. Vendor fees, that was a small portion of income, but this year we're hoping to bump it up and make it a more sort of very specific and higher income for us. And then team registration fees, I put that last because this is our big money maker. The more teams we can sign up, we can take a maximum of 33 teams. So the more teams that we can sign up, the more money we get, because we've set it at $2,000 for every team. So with a max of 33 teams, that's a lot of money if you do the math. So then you can see there at the bottom, our expenses versus our income. Yes, we spent $29,000, this is average, 24,000 of which was just getting the dragon boats here. Most of the rest of that was advertising. We're very fortunate to be able to have most of the other things that most of the other expenses covered or donated, things like storage. If we can put your name on the side of the storage bin, then you'll donate, free of charge. So our net income on average is about $57,000. the highest we could make is about 100,000. So that's what we're aiming for, Susan, just like you guys. 100,000, that's our goal, 33 teams, and as many sponsorships as we can get. Okay, so here's just a couple of pictures. This is, I think, really important to show folks what your event is all about. I had asked last year, I just posted on our Facebook page, hey, we're looking for some amateur photographers who want to photograph our event. We can't pay you, but we can give you some photo credit during, throughout the event. And we had 5 people reach out and say, I want to be there. I don't care that you can't pay me. I want to take these photos. And I said, well, okay, we have these 5 events, these things, if you can be there on this day, if you can't be there on that day, just let me know. And then I sort of said, okay, you are in charge of taking pictures of the teams. You are in charge of making sure you get happy faces from all the spectators. You are in charge of going out on the boat and getting pictures of the land from the water view. And then, somebody else was there for the practice week taking most of these, all 4 of these pictures were from the practice week. But you can see we got some really high quality images just by asking for somebody to show up. And they all did show up, even though we weren't paying them. So that's important to, get your sponsors involved. This at the bottom left is Cedar Point Federal Credit Union, which is the $10,000 sponsor. So it's a little bit mucky right now because I am also the $10,000 sponsor of this big event, or my credit union is. But I said, you need to focus and get lots of pictures of the major sponsor so that we can then promote this on our website, on our social media, and your sponsors want to do that. They want to be involved. They want to show the community that they are involved in doing these awesome things. So any pictures like this that you can give them, any social media posts that you can give them, gives them value. All right, I love those photos. So the keys to success with an event like this, and we're going to talk more about this in the second presentation later, build your team. And by that, I don't mean your Dragon Boat team. I mean your volunteers who are helping you run this event. You can't do it all alone. Design unique experiences. So exactly what Susan was talking about. We're going to do this drive-through wine fest and we're going to make it work. It's unique. They haven't done it before. People want to be a part of it, especially if it's the first, right? The first annual blah, blah, blah. And then, celebrate your anniversaries. The 5th annual blah, blah, blah. Be a part of the 5th annual. Don't forget your mission. You have to remind people all the time. Why are we here? What are we doing this for? With Dragon Boat, we, for several years, had a tough time we would let our sponsors know when we asked them to give us money or when they signed up, this is who we support and thanks for supporting them. But at the same time, we never had our folks with special needs front and center. We never said, hey, come to the event and represent. So last year, 2019, we really started doing that. So you can see here, for example, in the bottom right-hand corner, we have some of our folks with special needs accepting the big check from Cedar Point. We also, we do a flash mob at the dotting of the I ceremony in which we invite all of our local providers who host people with special needs, come dance with us, come learn to dance an hour before, and we'll go out and flash mob during the dotting of the I ceremony, and they'll have no idea we're gonna do it. It makes everything very visible. And Lydia, I am going to embarrass you in a little while. You're about to know what I'm gonna what I'm gonna say here. Communicate often. So social media, website, just reaching out to the sponsors in general to let them know you have 2 months left, you have a month left. We're getting really excited. We're so happy you're on board. Just communicating with them as much as possible makes them feel valued, makes them not worry. If I don't find out until 5 days before what I'm supposed to do when I get there, I'm worrying as the team captain. I'm like, I can't tell anybody on my team where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. So communicate often. Develop partnerships. It's not just about sponsorships, it's about partnerships. How can we bring value to you? So that's also give the sponsors what they want. If you don't see a sponsorship on here that works for you, what does work for you? Give them opportunities, give them options. If they say, well, I don't really want you to put me on your website, but I want you to mention on social media as much as possible, then that's what you need to do. And you need to keep a record of that so that they know that you value their participation. Build unique experiences, like I said. Okay, Lydia, here we go. And I'm saying I'm going to embarrass Lydia because here she is in this picture. Pretty sure that's you, Lydia. This was a flash mob. It's only about a minute long video, and I probably won't make you watch the whole thing. But I do have to switch to a different screen to share this. Okay, can you see the YouTube screen? I think so. Okay, here's our flash mob.
We hear it, but we're still on the.
What'd you say?
We hear it, but
you can't see it.
Right.
Okay, give me just a second.
Sure.
I think I share. How
The
about
Zoom
this?
gods are with me. They don't want you to see me dancing.
Don't worry, you'll see me dancing too.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
But you were good, actually.
There, I'm in the front. I'm in the front. Here we go.
Now what?
Ready? Over the other way. All right, here we go. Ready? Here we go. 6, 7, other arm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready?
Not seeing it?
No, what you need to do, I think, is stop sharing the current screen and then share the new.
All right, let's try this one more time, guys.
Right. No problem. No problem.
Shares. All right, let me try to. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna try it one more time. Lydia, we already moved past you, so.
Perfect.
Okay, there she is. I'm gonna pause it there.
Oh, come on, Kristen.
Oh, wait, here we go. There you go. There's me. So anyhow, you can see, that we, let me move my share screen back to the other one. That we really try to get our members front and center. The cause is front and center. Oh, look how goofy I look right there. Okay. Are you seeing the presentation again? Oh, here it goes.
Yes.
No? Yes? Okay, lovely. Perfect. And also, a lot of our sponsors are at this event, the dotting of the I's. We want to let them know what they're supporting and give them that feel-good experience for the cause. Also, it's important for your sponsors. This is another way to make sure you're getting, maximum value, maximum money out of your sponsors. Put their logo everywhere. Everything you can do. Slap it on the map that you have of the event. Put it in the county times. Our teams don't just have team names. They also have logos, right? They all come from somewhere. So celebrate that and support that. Give a recognition often. I have a race in here, but I don't think I'm going to need to show you that. But it's a really cool, you can look it up on YouTube yourself if you want to see any of the races. They are up there from 2019. Just look up SMCR race number 18, and that's the winning race. So let's get pivotal. Maybe that's a better way to say it, Susan. So we don't have to say the word pivot by itself. Olivia Newton-John, thank you. Okay, so 2020 rolls around, it's March, and we're really starting to ramp up Dragon Boat. We've got 5, 6, 7 sponsors at this point who already have teams planned, who are already planning to paddle, who have already paid us money, including our $10,000 sponsor. Well, everything is shutting down, and we're all thinking, and Susan, you can chime in if you want to, but we're all thinking, oh, this thing will be gone in a couple of months. We'll be able, our thing is until August, our thing is until September. We'll be okay. But let's keep our eye on it. So we start saying, what will we do? What do we think about? And our chairman at the time reached out one day and he said, I had a dream last night about us doing a scavenger hunt across Southern Maryland, and we can make it social distance friendly. And let's talk about it. What can we possibly do? So we had to ask ourselves a whole bunch of questions, which I have here. I won't read them all, but you know, during a pandemic environment, are people going to participate? Are our sponsors going to participate? Are people going to show up? You know, can I do it virtually? Is it even possible to do it virtually instead of in person? With the wine thing, you got to be thinking to yourself, people need the product in order to participate in this event. So how are we going to get them the product? How is this going to change our costs? For a lot of people, doing something virtually might be less expensive, which is great. But for others, it might be more expensive because you've got to figure out, you know, new ways to do things. How can we charge people now? Like if you used to accept cash at the door, do we have to accept charges on our website? And is there a 3%, you know, for PayPal? Do we have to charge slightly higher to do it virtually? Things like that. So I will send you this presentation. You can look at these questions later down the road. But one of the most important things down here is what resources do we have? And this isn't just, you know, do we have Google Sheets, for example? Do we have somebody who's willing to do some quick graphic design to fix this event into that event? Do we have, I think people are important, right? Do we have somebody who's willing to write a press release? Is somebody updating our website, or do we have to constantly go back to some developer somewhere and pay them to update our website? So what resources do we have, both human resources and physical resources and digital resources, importantly, especially in a virtual environment? So what we did is you know, when Andy said I had a dream, we said, let's try it. Let's see what we can do. So we went back to the same sponsors and we said, first of all, are you comfortable keeping your money with us, or do you want it back? Because here's this great event that we're going to do, and here's how you're going to get bang from your buck, right? So we told the sponsors, we're going to come to you. We're going to host an event in your parking lot, you know, and it's just people are going to drive through your parking lot and then go on to the next sponsor's parking lot. So we had 25 sponsors or vendors at that point, who, you know, people were going to stop at their location, pick up some swag or pick up a bag of popcorn, whatever it was. There was an ice cream place that was going to hand out ice cream cones. And we made it throughout 2 counties. So they're going to start, you know, at the lower Calvert County, go across the bridge, come down St. Mary's County through Leonardtown, and then slightly back up 3 Notch Road and end at our premier sponsor at Cedar Point, because I was able to coordinate that parking lot, first of all, and where they would put puzzle pieces together. So they picked up their piece of swag and they picked up a puzzle piece at each location. Then they're going to get out of the car and they have a special table that's, you know, umpteen feet away from everybody else. They're going to put their puzzle together, take a picture with their puzzle. And then everyone who completes the entire scavenger hunt is going to be entered into a drawing for a big ticket prize. I think it was $500 at that point. So we were trying to motivate people to join us, because it's not the business paying for the team at this point. It's families. It's your social bubble, which I have here, you know, is chariot teams, we were calling them. So your car is your chariot. So we went with this whole, you know, quest, you know, medieval theme with our little dragon. We gave him a little helmet. You can see up here in the top left, he's got a paddle during the dragon boat. But we said, well, why don't we make it a dragon quest and just ask our designer to change him up a little bit? So he got this little helmet and spike instead of the paddle. So we were able to keep the brand, you know, from one event to the other. So the pivot it wasn't enormous. And we were still kind of sticking with our team theme. Okay, let me make sure I got through all that. Yeah, and it's social distance friendly. So I'm going to switch over to my other screen. I won't have problems this time. And I will show you one of the Dragon Quest videos that we did. And this was our chairman at the time, Andy Geis, and he did a little promotional video for us. Can you see the screen? The video, the YouTube?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. All right. And hopefully you can hear the sound as well.
Hey everybody, my name is Andy Geis, and I have a passion for working with people with special needs. Because of that, I belong to an organization called Southern Maryland Community Resources, SMCR. You might know us from the Dragon Boat Festival. That's one of our main fundraisers every year. Unfortunately, we couldn't do Dragon Boat Festival this year because of coronavirus. However, we've pivoted and we've come up with something called the Dragon Quest. The Dragon Quest is a road rally scavenger hunt where you drive around with a couple people in your car, we call them a chariot, and you have a team in your chariot. You look for clues throughout St. Mary's County. By the end of the day, you come back and we determine who the winner is going to be. The winner gets a grand prize of $1,000, and we have other prizes for different categories as well. Best dressed chariot, best dressed team, and all sorts of other interesting things. It's August 15th, coming up pretty soon. Go to our website, SOMDCR, and take a look about all the information you can find out about Southern Maryland Community Resources and the Dragon Quest. Again, that's SOMDCR. Thanks, and hope to see you on August 15th.
Okay. And I will move back to my other screen. So that was a way, and I just want to share this little tidbit with you. That video is extremely important for driving engagement for your business, for your event. Just like Susan was saying, you know, having the video, especially with the explainer, when people are like, what the heck is this Quest thing? I've never heard of it before. You know, give me some background. We've got somebody, just takes a minute to watch this video. He explains it. He explains the cause, you know, and why we needed to pivot to this. So I just have on my screen here, are you seeing the presentation again? Silly
Yes.
me. Oh, good. Perfect. Okay. So I just sharing with you a couple of collateral pieces, because we had to, not only did we have to switch the theme and the event, that means we had to come up with, on the spot, some more marketing and more advertising. What are we going to do? You know, we decided to stick with the same colors, the same dragon. We had to ask some folks to help us redesign some things. And then we actually asked if you see this photo in the top right and in the bottom right, we asked we put out a call on Facebook and said, hey, we want to do a photo op, take some pictures. Can a couple people come show up? And so some folks from the local theater group came out and helped us take some photos at Cedar Point. So we were able to feature a sponsor. We were able to say, this is what it would look like for you as a sponsor. And then down here, this is what it would look like for you as a team, to try and sort of so while we're so virtual, to try and get people's minds to connect, here's what the event looks like in a virtual sense. And then there's just a map there where you would start and go up and around and back down. And then there's some pictures some promotional photos that we had taken, you know, to jog people's minds. We have a great designer who was able to put this puzzle together, and the little Queen Bees team. We had a whole bunch of example teams on there. And I think, yep, that is the end of the Dragon Quest. I do want to say, just so as not to mislead people, about 2 weeks before we were supposed to host this event, it was August when that second wave was coming through our area. So we decided that it would be the smartest thing to not do the event, because one of the things that Susan was saying, you know, the perception was really important to us, especially with a population of folks with special needs who oftentimes have extra care, you know, that they need, maybe some immune compromised issues. We just wanted to make sure that we were being responsible. So we did cancel it, though we did have quite a few teams and sponsors signed up. We gave a lot of money back, but a lot of our sponsors were very willing to let us keep the money. So that was great. That is the end of, I know I ran a couple of minutes over here. So that is the end of my presentation, my first presentation.
Cool. No problem. We're good. We're good on time.
Let me stop sharing here. Okay, there we go.
We're really good on time. Just a couple of comments, no questions. Great ideas about the photography and the cross promotion. So much energy and a great idea. I said about the, what was it, pivotal?
Let's get pivotal.
Yeah, good spin on that word. And someone else said love it. So Good, that's great.
And I just to comment on one of those comments real quick about the photographers, that's another, leverage your community. Don't underestimate who is willing to help you. There are all sorts of people out there. Put out the call on Facebook, put out the call on your website, and people will show up.
Cool. So in our plan for this morning, we thought after this presentation, we would take another short 10-minute break. And so we'll come back at about 10:55. And Susan has some more for us, and then Kristen will have some more, and then we'll have an open discussion and Q&A.
Excellent.
We'll see you about 10:55. All right, so we're back, 10:55, right? Is that what we said? Yeah. So I'm going to turn it back over to Susan and let her take it away.
All right. So this next presentation is really about the friend raising piece. And you do need to understand the difference between friend raising and fundraising. I'm going to do my best to try to describe it. I'm going to do my best to give you some real tactical elements to it. And then I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. And then we can talk about some things that are really pertinent to your organization, because at the end of the day, I want you guys to leave here with kind of a concrete understanding of the difference of friend raising versus fundraising. And we're all in nonprofit and we're all looking for that dollar, right? And we're looking, here forward about this dollar, but we have to be taking a step back and figuring out how can I position myself to fill the pipeline with people who I need to cultivate and steward and get up to a ready for the ask. So you always need to have what I call suspects. Everyone in your network and in your community is a suspect. That means that they are, you don't even know it. They don't even know it yet, but they could potentially be a donor of yours. When you engage with them and you learn about and you educate them on the interest of your organization, or they come to you with an interest in your organization, then they become a prospect and they can go into a different bucket, and you want to carefully court them along. It's, you don't get married on the first date. Maybe some people long ago did, but not normally these days, unless you're on a reality TV show. So you want to kind of court them as prospects. And then when they come to make a gift because you've asked them, they are ready, they are willing, they are able, and you can move forward in engaging them in all the donor activities. So there's lots of friend raising that needs to be done in the course of our work. And that's what I'm going to really talk about today. I just pretty much have a shorter presentation than I had before. But again, I'm hoping for some interaction. And when we do the wrap up and ask questions, I want you guys to be very participatory in that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to go from the beginning here. Everybody see it okay, hopefully.
Yep.
All right. So here is the big thing that you need to know. Do not put the fundraising cart before the friend raising horse, right? Funny little image of this fun little horse character and his cart. He's got all his money in his basket and he's, pushing that cart forward. So that's great. But what he's not doing is looking in his, behind him in this pasture of all these people who are just standing there figuring out when the horse is going to turn around so they can raise their hand, or say they can write a check, or they can volunteer, or they can serve on a board, or barter some sort of a sponsorship. The money in the basket is great, but those sometimes are just transactional. And we'll talk about that word transactional versus what I call transformative or transformational giving. And again, if this horse keeps looking forward, they're not seeing that big picture. And that's really what I want you guys to do today. So we're going to talk a lot about the elements of a successful fundraiser. And I'll go through all these icons right now, and then I'm going to talk specifically about each one. The first thing you need, and I'm going to leave this slide on for a little bit. The first thing you're going to need is really a clear cause. You also need a passionate champion or champions to sell the opportunity. I always say that people give to people, and people give because they're asked. You need to invite them to dance. You need to invite them to participate. You need to make them love your organization as much as you do. You need, for a fundraiser, a targeted list of invited guests. You need a mix of fun and purpose, and it really should be purpose and then fun. and then a plan to follow up with attendees. And that point is very important because you shouldn't make your plan after the fundraiser. You should already have your plan of follow-up before the fundraiser even starts. It should be an active component. So when we talk about a clear cause, the first thing that comes to mind is just like a way to really increase the enthusiasm for your organization, to raise awareness for your organization, and eventually raise funds for a specific and tangible program, product, or service that you deliver. And it's easier to get supporters excited if you can really showcase and get them to that place where they believe and they trust and they have confidence that how they're going to get involved is going to be meaningful and impactful, not only to them, but to you. It's easier, for example, to sell a person or engage a person for a food pantry when you can have them have a tour of the pantry rather than just like a direct mail letter saying, please give $25 to help us fund the emerging needs of the pantry because hunger is a crisis right now. You know, that's kind of bland and vanilla. It's easy to do. That's a transaction. But if you were to set the tone for a food pantry and think about, and we'll just use that example kind of all through this. If you use that example, you'll see how we can get this cause, we can get a passionate champion, that type of thing. So let's talk about this food pantry, ABC food pantry, that maybe is in the basement of a church and is obviously growing and growing with a need right now because they are running out of food and they're having an influx of people because of the pandemic who need some basic necessities like hunger. So this food pantry needs volunteers, they need product, they need maybe a better supply chain management. They need to make sure that they are handling things in the pandemic correctly. They've got a lot of moving parts. And sometimes food pantries, unless you're really, really big, you really are kind of volunteer driven. And so you don't necessarily have the resources of a hospital or a college or another larger nonprofit to kind of provide that administration. So you are, again, like this duck that's trying to paddle and you're just being chaotic underneath. So what you need to do on that is identify like a clear cause. What is it that you need? Do you need volunteers? Do you need more donations to the food pantry? Do you need operating funds or funds, philanthropic dollars to expand your pantry? What is it that you need? And when you sit back with your board or your group, you ought to be able to very easily articulate the priorities and in what order they are. So I just mentioned a couple things about this made up pantry, and there's ways in which to host Friendraisers that can accomplish all of that. So let's go to the next thing. And the next graphic is a passionate champion to sell the opportunity, people giving to people. So think about the food pantry for a minute. You're going to have someone that is kind of in charge of the food pantry, maybe a stellar volunteer, the organizer, the person who's got, the first impression. When you think of that food pantry, you think of John, because John he founded it, he's organized it, and no one else is going to get in his way. They just follow his lead. So John might be a passionate champion. Another passionate champion might be a current sponsor or frequent donor of food or funds to this pantry. Someone who obviously believes in the cause, believes in what John's doing, has seen the impact, first time, and are willing to speak about it to their network and to other networks. So there's another passionate champion. Another passionate champion could be, a grateful recipient. Maybe there's a family that fell on hard times. We all know them, that have suddenly found themselves in line at this food pantry week after week after week. And they were maybe having some emotions related to this, maybe some shame, maybe some trepidation, maybe some dose of humbleness, some immense gratitude that a space like this is available for them at this time in need that they never thought that they would see themselves in. And they might be able to gracefully sell this opportunity about why it's so important, and now more than ever, right? Because Food pantries have been around for a long time, and it seems to be the same populations of people that were using these food pantries. And now this population has grown. And so you're identifying these people who are the frequent flyers or becoming this core group of champions. So you see that I identified 3 different people: someone who works for the organization, someone who benefits from the organization, and someone who stands by and supports it. And that could be, a credit union or a bank or, another corporate entity or well-meaning small business in the community. So while the cause or the project might be important, people give to other people, and having someone that's articulate and passionate will make them more likely to offer help. So you need to think of these champions almost as guest speakers. And when they become a guest speaker of some sort, people will see the potential on the ways to donate. Another thing you could do with regard to kind of a guest speaker is maybe there's someone that's been part of the history beyond John of this food pantry who maybe was a recipient for 15 years of the food pantry for his family. And now he's become a volunteer, or he's become a donor himself of food because he wants to give back to a place that gave back to him so long ago. There's a great story. So bringing back someone from the history and showcasing how this project has evolved over time can also be very, very meaningful. Let's move next to the targeted list of invited guests. By its very nature, a Friendraiser is really designed to activate and excite a group of people. And it's designed to have people with a specific ability to help. And it's not just about that dollar, right? They could have influence politically, they could have some expertise to share, or again, the means to make a significant financial contribution. Or in the case of the food pantry, maybe they're well connected in the food industry and can rally some troops of other like-minded businesses to infiltrate the pantry with products and services that they need to deliver to their core audience of users. So when planning the friend-raising event, just try to review that membership roster and your board or your core volunteers list of contacts to send this special targeted invite out to the small group. So think about this for a moment. I just mentioned, the person who may be well connected to the food industry. Let them invite their partners. Let the board invite their contacts. Let some of the politicians at the local level know. Politicians love to be seen. And if they can see your cause and get engaged in your cause and speak to your cause, people are listening to them. Their constituencies are listening to them. And so sometimes to tie that in is not a bad thing. The mix of purpose and fun, the appeal of the fundraising itself is the most important, and that's what's going to draw the crowd. Maybe not the purpose of the gathering, right? So you have to have this mix of fun and purpose. And one of the things I want to do is I want to show, maybe go next to us, the screen here. So we're going to talk about the who. I'm going to circle back about this mix and purpose and this target invited list. Who do you want to meet? Who in your organization, if you had to, shake that crystal ball and figure out who do you want to be in your circle? Who is it? What does that look like? Is it the network of a well-connected board member? Maybe even a past board member? Is it prospective volunteers who can help propel your mission? Are they hobbyists like boaters or foodies or travelers or collectors? Something along that line that helps to take into consideration your mission. Or are they newcomers to the community? Do you want to capture that market of people who are moving into our community and looking for things to do, looking for causes, looking for charities to support? Define that audience. So you see there, that's that you in the center right there. You want to tap into family, friends, colleagues, book clubs. Facebook groups are amazing. You can join Facebook groups for nearly any kind of hobby that's out there, and you can engage the audience in that aspect as well. Talk about that just a little bit more in a minute as well. And I'm going to get to the next slide here. So I talk about the where of where you're going to have this fun and this mix of purpose, you do not want to have a Friendraiser in your conference room. You probably don't even want to have a Friendraiser at a hotel space. And I'm sorry to all the people that have, partnerships with local hotels and venues in the community. Those are great, but everybody uses them. You really want to connect your audience in a very, very unique way that's going to inspire them, and they're going to be able to get a sneak peek behind the curtain of what your organization's like. So let's go back to that food pantry. If your topic and your cause and your mission centers around hunger, why not invite them to the food pantry? Let them see the shelves. Let them see how full they are or how bare they are. Let them see the confines of the space. Let them see that you are complying with PPE. Let them see the way in which people enter and the impression that this space gives to the audience that's coming. If you're an environmental cause, nothing better than being like at a park or on the shoreline. Get outdoors and go to that beach that needs restoration. Go to that lake that needs cleanup. Go to that park that needs more safety mechanisms in place so that kids can have a safe place to play. Take them to the location and show them what your mission can do. Are you a religious organization? See if there is a vocational residence or a parlor space that people might not normally have access to see. If it's at a church, Catholic church, go to the pastor and say, hey, do you have a meeting space inside your residence that we could go to? Not a lot of people have access to that, rather than just a community room. It could also be at the home of a beloved parishioner who likes to entertain, and they might have a really pretty home in a scenic area that they would open up, and that's where the Friendraiser could be held. If your mission is educational and you have access to classroom space, and maybe you're trying to renovate a classroom or do some upgrades, go into the classroom needing repair. You don't need to put on this bright show and show them this hotel room or show them this space that's like fancy. Take them to the space where they can see and envision and make, as I say over here on the right-hand side, the impression you need to make is in their heart and through their senses. What are they seeing? What are they hearing? What are they touching, smelling, and tasting, right? How is that space compatible? If it's not great and it's drab, look where their gift can go. And then, like I said, inviting them to a hotel or a conference space really doesn't drive that mission. It doesn't necessarily speak to exactly what you're trying to accomplish. We're going to put the friend in fundraising in just a moment, but we're going to talk about the plan. And that was like that last graphic. I'm not going to keep flipping back here, but getting folks in the door and getting them excited about the opportunity that you have is really only half the battle. I would not recommend a soft ask during a fundraiser because people may expect it. And, you've all been to something where a friend invites you and you feel obligated to go, and they're going to shut the door, and they're going to ask you, and you maybe don't know enough about the organization, or maybe you're really not so much as passionate as your friend is, and you also don't want to hurt their feelings. You're just kind of going out of obligation. If the plan to follow up has to do with educating them more or having them in for a more in-depth tour or a face-to-face with the John of the food pantry or with the top donor of the food pantry, that can be your next step as part of the plan. But you want to make sure that you have this plan that you can have either yourself or the volunteer coordinator, whoever is the champion and that guest speaker, maybe do the follow-up. Goes back to my line about people give to people and people give because they're asked. So you need to have the right person asking for the right gift at the right time. And that'll become clearer to you when you take a look at the targets of the audience that you're inviting, how they got to be at your organization, and what the plan is for them. If the plan is financial, who's the best person to ask for that gift when the time comes? If the plan is in kind, who's the best person to ask for that kind of assistance within the time frame that you need? So you're really ultimately having these people come to the door. You're making them see your organization in action, And then you're going to begin to cultivate that relationship. So they were a suspect before they came to your event. Now they can be potentially a prospect, and you need to provide stewardship and cultivation before you can ask them to get involved. So we're going to talk about the needs for putting the word friend in fundraising. And I'm going to tell you that I stole this off the internet, but I actually thought that it was really interesting and fun. And it actually takes a more strategic approach to how you do what you do. So while I'm going through these, you need to be thinking to yourself, is what you're doing sustainable, right? You're not going to have a tour and then let that be done and move on to your task. You're going to figure out, can I do a tour once a quarter? Do people really want to get in and see what I'm doing? How can I change it up and make it a sustainable product that you deliver to the community as a method of cultivation and acquisition of potential donors? You want to always figure out, am I inspiring them? That should be your core message. What am I doing to inspire this person who's right in front of me? You know, it's so much more powerful to have them in your space and delivering this need without an ask than it is to communicate it in a letter. You know, that face-to-face inspiration is what we all strive to have. And then how are you going to transform what I call the not quite yet to the now, right? So just be thinking of those kind of things as we go through putting the friends in fundraising. And I think, you know, this is important right now because you can't, you know, you just can't keep pushing messages in social media out to the masses. Everyone is flooding emails and DMs and Facebook and events with so much content, and we see it through every day, that we're just trying to get through life. And sometimes we need just that gentle touch. We need that gentle invitation to do something different than just read my email and please respond. And you got to think of fundraising as what I call like this donor centered journey. You know, you're going to take their hand, you're going to walk them through, you're going to reassure them that their funds and their investment in your organization is going to be strong and powerful. And you're going to lead them so that when it's time to make that ask of whatever time, talent, or treasure that you're going to seek from them, that they're going to say yes, that you're likely not going to get a no from them. Okay. And that becomes the distance or the difference between transactional giving and transformative or transformational giving. So let's put the F in fundraising, and that is really all about the fun, right? We're having fun today. I want you to think about not just the food pantry anymore, but think about your own organization. Make sure that whatever fundraiser you do is fun, is uplifting. It shouldn't be painful, right? It shouldn't be just obligatory. And when people are afraid of asking, I know no one in this group is afraid of asking because you all are fundraisers. If you're afraid to ask, you won't do it, right? So think of something that you're going to get behind that makes it easy for you to tell your story. And that's the kind of fundraiser that you should do. The R in fundraising is about relationships. And this really should evolve over multiple touch points, not just the one-time transactions, right? Think about that hub and spoke diagram that I showed you in a previous slide, where it had you at the center in your organization and all the different groups around you that could help define those relationships. You always want to be checking in with your board, maybe even on a quarterly basis individually, and saying, who's in your Rolodex? What groups are you in? What boards are you on? Is there anybody that you want to introduce to our mission? And they should get in the habit of this referral. And what they're referring to you is not necessarily donors today, but you know, the not quite yets. Okay. And so once you get those people, you know what to do with them. You take them on that dance and you take them on that journey. And then you can report back to your board member and say, thank you so much for those 3 referrals. They're in our pipeline right now. And I'm about ready to ask Joe to be part of our team in a volunteer capacity, because he is really starting to talk to me about what we're doing and how exciting it is. And I've engaged him. So thank you for that referral. Let's talk about innovation for a minute. You yourself, even though people might see you as well-connected and networked, and you are in your own right, you need to look outside your inner circle and your own methods of fundraising and really like discover new forms of engagement. And I think this pandemic has taught us a lot. I really wasn't much of a Zoom person or a Teams person or a WebEx person before the pandemic. In fact, we at the hospital, when I was there, we only had a core group of people who were teaching us how to use WebEx. I'd really never used it before. But now I find myself in my new job, talking to a donor in California and checking in on her to see how she's doing with the pandemic and making sure that she's feeling safe and that she's getting her access to care for her skin checks, and just talking to her and, celebrating spring and a renewal. And I'm not asking her for money, and she knows I'm not asking for money. I'm just engaging her and letting her know what we're doing, how we're handling things here at the MRF, and letting her know I'll be back in touch with her in a couple weeks, and just providing that stewardship in a way where normally on any given time, I might be planning a trip to California and I would have stopped and taken her for coffee or something. So I'm trying to get out of my own comfort zone and place those calls and get comfortable with the way in which I'm interacting with my suspects and my prospects and my donors. The E is for environment. And this is something that is unique to you. Again, we can go back to that food pantry, it like the back of your hand, but think of your own organization, whether you have walls or not. Think about what it means to you. What is your environment? How you work, how you showcase your nonprofit to the community. Do kind of what I'd call this environmental scan and take a look in this downtime at the moment and see if there's anything you can do better. Is there any product that you can deliver? Is there any way you can update best practices or tweak some ways in which you provide social media or engage again with your sponsors and donors? This would be the time to take a look at your environment and tweak it a little bit. So as you work on these fundraisers, you are ready from the inside out. It's almost like doing just kind of a spring cleaning of your own organization. The N is for network. And again, that is such a powerful word. It was powerful before the pandemic, and now we're in it, and it will be for a very long time. Just embracing the power of people's networks. There are so many people that can help open new doors for you. There are ambassadors for your organization that maybe stand proudly behind the scenes and have never been asked to dance, right? Now's the time. You probably have advocates, either politically or otherwise, for your organization that you could call and they would do anything for you. Start making a list of the things you need to get done with them and help expand that network. And then influences who can do real wonders for your organization. When you have these connectors, when you have this network that's kind of humming on all cylinders, just imagine the sustainability you could have by all these moving parts going, right? A lot of times we are moving parts with like logistics of our organization, getting the mail opened and shipping things and hosting board meetings and things like that. But if you can do that same hardwired process with your network, again, imagine for a moment those possibilities. And then the D in friend is about dialogue. Just remember that dialogue is not a one-way street. There's got to be, two people talking. And when you do that, and when you engage in that dialogue and you tell your story and you host these Friendraisers, you are really bringing these people home. You're bringing them to a place where you want them to call home from a volunteer capacity or as a philanthropic, funding priority in their own lives. So think about the dialogue that you're having with them and always try to make sure that it's meaningful. Again, going over to the right side, that it's inspiring them and that you're always identifying ways in which you can get them to say, when now is the time to ask them to give, that they're ready and they're primed for that request. I'm going to leave you with a couple names here. When I was working on this report and this presentation, when I was looking online, I identified two women actually in the field, Claire Axelrad and Vera Peterman, who are out there in the internet. They have blogs on things like Fundraising 101. And Claire actually has her own web presence. She's an author and a coach and a educator, and just knows so much about fundraising and friend raising. She has a space called clarification, which I think is kind of cute. Anyway, this is where I kind of got these sources from when I was searching on this topic of friend raising. And I just want you to have those names so you can search them. And again, it's full of information. And even when you Google friend raising, you can find a variety of sources. I want to kind of, I don't know where we are with time. Kira, are we okay with timing?
I'm here, sorry. We're fine. We can just, move along as we are.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep going. And then I think Kristen has a little more too, and we're going to do some.
Okay.
So.
I just wanted to share some kind of homegrown examples of friend raisers that I've seen in our community that I think are pretty brilliant. And actually one of them has to do with CSM. So CSM, is our local community college, and they've got campuses all across the region, and they're in the business of education, right? And a long time ago, I don't think they're still doing this anymore, but it was back when Michelle Goodwin was their executive director, and they got involved with kind of like an antiques roadshow where they hosted this antiques appraisal event on one of their campuses. And I thought to myself, this is brilliant, because what they were doing is bringing people who didn't really necessarily care about CSM, but they cared about their antiques and the assets that they had in their house and the collectibles that they had in their house. And they wanted to get appraisals and information and engage with experts. So CSM brought experts to a location. They invited people who had this hobby of collecting, which meant they probably had some disposable income to make a gift at some point in time. And those people got to come to this event, and perhaps they paid a small fee to get in, but they thought they were coming to, an event to get their item appraised and see if it was worth anything that was in grandma's attic from 40 years ago. But guess what? I'm suspecting that the people from CSM development team were there on site to engage with these people. They got all of their emails. They made friends with people who were either known to them as in the organization or maybe not known. And they probably had a plan to follow up with them. But what they gave them that day was the gift of education on a product that they had, so the donor had, or the prospect who came had, this beautiful tea set that ended up being worth $250,000. And they were delighted to learn about that. Well, so was CSM, because what is that person going to do with that after they pass away? If they don't have any children, or if they don't have, someone to pass it down to. So if you see what I'm trying to show, they didn't just host, a seminar in a conference space about the importance of giving back to education. They took a really cool spin on something that they could deliver to an audience that they wanted to get to know. And I would be curious about seeing what their plan was, if they had, plan, and how that maybe resulted in a couple of gifts of appreciated assets, or even some, some volunteers or some board members. So that is one example of something that I've seen done, very, very well. And then, you always see these things online, kind of like a walk in my shoes, where, you could take people behind the scenes of having an experience that people don't really normally get access to do. So I have, this is not necessarily a local event, but a organization called the Covenant House that's in Washington, that's in California, and they probably have Covenant houses kind of across the country. But a good friend of mine, is on the board at the Covenant House, and it helps fuel the need to eradicate homelessness in Los Angeles, which is a big undertaking. And so this board is committed to eradicating it. And one of the things that they do is they have what's called an executive sleep out. And they agree to sleep out on the streets of Los Angeles for one night. And they do it with a sleeping bag and, a tent, and, envision and imagine what it must be like to do this 365 days a year. And they fundraise for it. And my friend, gift by gift, moment by moment, raises $20,000 to $30,000 for the organization just by asking her network to support her with a $20 gift. And she tells her story, and she shows, she kind of does live feeds from Facebook Live, and she just talks about how she's feeling and what she's hearing and all of these things. And it's just amazing to see. And I find myself very engaged on this side of the coast, watching her do what she does, and probably put herself in out of her own comfort zone. But that is a very unique way to get Friendraisers, right? Because I didn't even know about the Covenant House before Beth did this. And here I am now, a regular donor to her every single year because I want to support her passion. So again, I would encourage you to find your passion, find what makes your organization unique, identify a fundraiser or two that you can put your hat on in the Friendraiser category, and just make it your own and start to build your pipeline. That's all I probably have to say about this topic.
Awesome. I put in the chat, St. Clements Island Museum does an appraiser fair every year. Similar idea. The people are there for their own items, but folks are there. So I think it's like a $3 or $5 admission. It's pretty popular and it usually sells out. And this year they did it, but it was, very timed, very few people, and you had to sign up for specific times. So this way they didn't have 50 people standing in line at once, because of COVID precautions. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Susan, so very much. Kristen, we're going to come back to you for a little bit, and then we're going to do, I'm thinking we can poll everybody when you're done, whether we want to take another break or just keep going, have a conversation and wrap up early. We'll see how it goes. Pretty
Perfect.
Fun. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Susan talked about the fundraising part, and I'm going to talk about the fundraising part as specific to events. So I'm going to share my screen over here. Can you see it? Oh,
yep.
Okay, fundraising 101. We're going to jump right in. It's really important to ask yourself, why are we fundraising? And I say this because that can get lost. I know I mentioned that before, but make sure you're always connecting back to your why. And I just have a little thing here. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is from a gentleman named Simon Sinek, and it's called The Golden Circle. He has a presentation on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes long. I absolutely recommend that every business everywhere watches this video. It's about leadership, and it's called why. I don't have my notes up here. I can't see them. But every organization knows what they do, right? Those are the logistics. This is what we sell. This is what we support. Some organizations know how they do it. How are we accomplishing this? But not a lot of organizations know why they do it. Nonprofits are great because a lot of us really know why we're doing this. We have such a very specific support reason that we're supporting. So it's always important to know why, because this is what you're using to inspire people to give to your organization, right? Simon Sinek says one thing that just sticks with me all the time. He says that Martin Luther King gave the "I have a dream" speech, not the "I have a plan" speech. People want to hear about your dream, not necessarily about your plan. They want to hear your dream up front. That's how you're going to sell them. And then you can walk them through your plan secondarily. So building your team for fundraising, you cannot do it all by yourself. I said this earlier. I've tried to put events together by myself. I can do small ones, but I need a team behind me. I really do. You have to establish your leadership and chain of command, because these meetings that we all have with big groups of people, our volunteers, we can get in these nitpicky, squabbly, well, we should do this or we should do that. So, kind of jumping down a little bit. We want to make sure that, well, I'll get to the next one on the next slide, but make sure that you make decisions, the decisions are being made, that you're not walking away from these meetings without making those decisions. Put out a call for volunteers. If your organization pays 3 people, it can't just be you 3. If you're trying to fundraise, you need the help. You need people. Dragon Boat Festival has 200 volunteers in any given year. and determine everybody's strengths on your core committee of people. We probably have 10 to 12 people each year on our core committee, and one person is in charge of wrangling volunteers because that's her strength. One person is in charge of logistics on the water, and another person is in charge of logistics on land. We have people to arrange the teams. We have people to arrange the entertainment. And then we have people who are going out there and actively asking for the sponsorships and donations. That is not everybody's strength. If I am great behind the computer and I can put a good Google sheet together, I might not be the person who wants to hit the pavement and ask people for money. So you need to recognize their strengths, and then you need to empower them to use those strengths to seek out the solutions. One problem that we have when we're working as a team, sometimes we get to the point where the person at the top is determining all the solutions, and everybody else is bringing us the problems, right? We get those negative Nellies, if you will, who come in and say, oh, well, I just don't know how we're going to sell these little baby dragons, and then you at the top, you're at the end, well, come to me with the problem and also come to me with a solution. If you need to go out and find something, go find it. So that way also you're not burning out, which is this last one here. The people at the top tend to burn out quickly. So succession planning for your events is extremely important, along with your organization. But just to give you an example, Bonnie Elward, who was our coordinator of the entire Dragon Boat Festival, she decided it was time to retire. She gave us a year's notice. And so I had been on the committee for 4 years, and I thought, I think I can step into this role. So we took 8 months to hand over all of the documents, to understand everything that Bonnie did from her perspective. And also the other important thing is Bonnie was the person who hit the pavement and said, you're going to give me money and here's why. And she was extremely good at that. So I had to say, teach me your ways. I'm good at asking for money in my way, but I'll tell you that Cedar Point supports this festival in the very way that Susan was saying. Cedar Point supports this festival because Bonnie came to us. She did an entire presentation and we supported Bonnie. So then I had to say, please support me. Where, we had to go to all of our donors and our sponsors and say, yes, we're having a change in command. And here's why it's going to be just as great next year. You don't have to worry about us, right? So don't forget your succession planning, especially if something might happen to your key person. You don't want to be left scrambling and then also trying to put a festival together. Budgeting. I know we absolutely hate this, but as small businesses, as nonprofits, we have to consider what are our expenses and what is our expected income. It is not worth it for the director, for your executive director to be spending all of their time on your one event, if they have to also be running your programs and your opportunities and doing some networking and connecting with donors for other things. So you need to understand what is your budget, who is doing the work. We need to treat the event like its own business, right? Is it going to be profitable, or are we making $7,000 and spending $6,000? Set your goal for the end. I realized when we were doing our budgeting for Dragon Boat, our budget was based on 33 teams. And I said, we can't base our budget on maximum level income. We have to assume that we're going to get half that or 2/3 that, because we don't always get the maximum number of teams. And then at the end, we're saying, why didn't we make as much money as we thought we did? Well, that's because we assumed we were going to get maximum income. So you have to be thinking about those things in advance. You have to make your roadmap to accomplish those goals. How are we going to get there in the end? I have know your floor and your ceiling here, because what is the minimum we need to accomplish by getting this? By doing this event. And if we don't think we can accomplish this, we got to either not do it, or we have to come up with some creative ways to do other things, pull in other people to help us do new things, do our friend cultivating here, and try and find out what we're gonna do to meet that minimum and hopefully more. And the ceiling, that's more for what are we going to spend? You have to know that there's a certain level of advertising that you can do on social media is one thing, it's free. But if you're going to print posters and put them up all over town, how much is that going to cost us? And if we have to make a change and we have to reprint all of those posters, is that worth it for us? Is that going to set us back? And are we still going to accomplish everything we needed to accomplish by spending more? So the ceiling is, what's the maximum spend before we start, you know, before it's not getting us a return anymore. And this last one here is important. Our small businesses, our nonprofits, we're always afraid to spend money. I know this. I've run 3 businesses myself. I had a small business. You have to be willing to put out the money to see the return. That's hard for us because $1,000 is a donor's money that they gave to us for these purposes. So we have to be able to say, yes, we are going to spend $30,000 to get this dragon boat company to come down here and help us run this festival. But here's how we're going to raise more beyond that. And here's how that is going to help us raise the rest. Planning the event. You need to schedule. I have scheduling and conflicts here right at the top, because what we've discovered time and time again is we need to back up 6 months or 9 months even, look at the calendar that's out there and say, are we going to conflict with the county fair? Are we going to conflict with another big event at Anne Marie Garden? All of these sorts of things. You have to look at the calendar, and you can't just consider yourself as the only player in the game. You have to look at, what is CSM doing, and is our audience the same as their audience? Are they going to pull away from us? So when we did the Solomon's Plein Air Festival, we were an art festival involved in painting. So artists would come in from all over the country, paint outdoors, paint everything they see in Solomon's and local areas. And then we would sell those paintings and the funds would go to charity. But we had to decide, are we going to do that on the same weekend as Arts Fest? So that we can bring down arts people and sort of partner with Arts Fest and say, you're this kind of art thing, we're this kind of art thing, and we're going to have all these tourists from out of town. Or are we going to be competing with Arts Fest, and we're going to have the same audience not coming to our event because they're used to going to Arts Fest? So those are kind of things to consider with scheduling. Also, this happened to me in 2018. Are you getting married on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival? That's not going to work. I can't be there, be present, and also get married, because I can't worry about these 2 things at the same time. Plus, I'm going to a foreign country to get married. You got to strategize. You got to plan it out. I'll try to speed up a little bit through here. Pick your plan and stick to it. Too often, we come in at the 11th hour and say, oh, maybe we could also add a basket raffle to this. Can somebody go to Chick-fil-A and get a donation? And then you're spreading your resources too thin. So pick your plan 6 months, 9 months in advance and stick to it and really go after it. And try not to add those extraneous things onto your volunteers who are already, stretched pretty thin. It also creates a mess for the person in charge, right? To have to add these things on and then go back and say, oh, hey, donors, we're also doing this. Don't forget about that. Logistics, you got to have somebody planning the logistics, and make sure it's available information for your sponsors, for your team. You might want to have a plan that's only for your team, that says, at 6 a.m., this is what we're going to do. At 6:20 a.m., this is what we're going to do. The 3 of us right now for this presentation, we had our own schedule so that we would be able to keep ourselves on track. Coordinate with local municipalities. That's a pretty obvious one. We're coordinating with Calvert County. We're coordinating with Solomon's. And when we were doing the Dragon Quest, we were also coordinating with St. Mary's County. So, you have to add that into your timeline and your plan. And this is the one I was saying, sometimes more minds are better. It's great to have these huge committees where you can sort of delegate tasks, but sometimes you have to make a decision, and you can't kind of wait on other people to do that. You have to make a decision and stick to it. Don't go back. Don't keep asking the question. We're going with this and we're moving forward. I wanted to speak about this from the sponsor's perspective, because I work for a credit union. I'm the chief marketing officer. I make a lot of decisions on behalf of someone who is often the one giving the money, so that you can kind of see what's happening behind the curtain of the sponsor. Sponsors have a budget, and often that budget is higher than you think. We're a credit union. credit unions and banks and people who, big businesses, they have a huge budget for this kind of, well, I wouldn't say huge. We have a budget for this kind of thing, and we are willing to give money. So aim high and ask high. Bonnie came in here and she said, we want you to give $8,000. And at first we thought, okay, let's think about this. We got to talk to the board, and we've never done anything like this. But we were here saying, we want to put our name on a big event in this county. What are we going to do? And so at that time, we were really focused on Calvert County and trying to push out our name in Calvert. And she came to us at the right time, and we said, this is a great cause. Let's do it. And now we're giving $10,000 every year. So, it started at 8,000, which we thought was high. And she came back the next year and she said, how about 10? And we said, okay. So just know that there are organizations out there who will do that for you. And in fact, with the Dragon Boat Festival, we had an organization reach out to us a few weeks ago and say, we want to give you $5,000. What can we get for that? Right. So they hadn't seen the prospectus. They hadn't seen anything, but they thought, oh, here's a lot of pictures of a lot of people. They'll see our name. What can we get for $5,000? So I said, well, let me tell you, we can do all sorts of things. And if that doesn't work for you, we'll customize a package for you. Establish your expectations up front. Here's what we expect from the festival. You can give them some of those data points that you have, but let them know what they can expect from you in terms of your communication, in terms of what they'll get for their money, and in terms of what the event is going to be, what's happening throughout the event. So you have to have your plan in place ahead of time before you start asking people for money. Local versus national. This is sometimes a debate. If you're going to go to Coca-Cola, that's fine. They're probably going to give you a smaller amount. It's probably going to take a long time to get it to you. And they may not even consider you if you aren't within their mission for that year, for example. Maybe this year they're supporting the arts. Maybe next year they're supporting special needs. So you have to really do your research before you do that. And it takes a lot of effort and energy to go to the Wawas and the PNCs of the world. But there's money there. But I would say my biggest recommendation on who to go to, local businesses that are not your typical small business. Small businesses are willing to give 200, maybe 500 here and there, but a business like a credit union or a bank or a local contractor, Avian Engineering, for example, gives us a lot of money for the festival. They are willing to give more money, and they have more money. And oftentimes we don't get asked. People are, during the pandemic, I can tell you I can count on two hands how many people actually asked us for money, which was surprising to me because so many more people needed money during the pandemic. And I'm out here saying, hello, we have money. Do you want some? And it felt like I was shouting into a void. So now you guys know Cedar Point Federal Credit Union, we have money. But seriously, don't be afraid to ask, and don't search their websites. Look for what is their community, what is their mission. Their mission might really align with yours. Cedar Point's mission is, part of our mission is to create experiences for people, unique experiences that they remember. And so the Dragon Boat Festival is going to be one of those unique experiences that they remember. Give them an easy way to get you money. If they have to write a check, that's not always the best way to do it. If they can pay online, that might be better. So give them a couple of ways and communicate about it. Sometimes we're over here like, do you need the money? When do you need it? So communicate that up front, how they can pay. Do they need a deposit versus the full amount, that sort of thing. Be responsive. We as sponsors, we want to be present. We want to have our name on something, and we want to know that we're taken care of. So if you are not responding to my emails, I'm starting to get worried that you just took my money and ran. So even if it's just a quick moment to say, I got your email, I will get back to you next week, that's helpful for the sponsors. So like I said, if you don't know what your, the first year I did the Dragon Boat Festival, the coordinator wasn't checking her email, the team's coordinator. And so I was over here saying, I need to tell my people where they need to be and when they need to be there. And I have no idea what's happening. And I felt like for an $8,000 investment, that wasn't the kind of communication I wanted to have. We don't have that problem anymore. And then reconnect. Follow up. One of the things that Susan was saying that's so important, you have your plan in advance for follow up. And then there are these moments that you can find things that we do, for example, throughout the year. I'll go back to that sponsor and say, hey, look at this great photo I just found of your team in the Dragon Boat Festival last year. I just wanted to share it with you because I thought it was so awesome. Just jog their memory so that when it comes around time to donate again, they say, oh yeah, I did get 2 or 3 emails from her. I remember her. She's the person that I need to reach out to next year. So that they're not sort of sitting here saying, how do I get to these people? What are we thinking about? They remember your name and they're starting to associate you with the business, with with the event, and that they know how and when to reach out. And advertising. I have that here because I'm going to switch to the next slide. But this thing on the right, we want to thank our sponsors as much as possible. We want to get their name out there. Don't forget to tag them in the social media post. We just donated some money to an event, and they were putting out all of these updates saying, thank you, Cedar Point. We didn't get tagged, so we didn't know what was happening. One of my employees came to me and said, hey, did you see all the great posts from this event? And I said, what are you talking about? I didn't even know. Then I searched for them on Facebook. I couldn't even find them. So, make sure you're visible. We have this problem maybe that we're known as Southern Maryland Community Resources on Facebook, but a lot of people out in the community know us as SMCR. So do we need to change that? Do we need to put Southern Maryland Community Resources, SMCR in parentheses? And don't forget to use that. If you put a little @ sign and then you start typing Cedar Point Federal, it'll come up and you can tag them. That's a little marketing toolkit because I am a marketer and I find that this is I have a whole bunch of free things that you can do here. Most of it is free anyway. Social media, that's always free. Post. As much content as you can generate in short blurbs is great. You have to know which social media is right for you, for your organization, and for the type of post. So on Instagram, you're going to be doing lots of photos. You don't want to put a huge paragraph of information on Instagram. Nobody's going to read it. They're just scrolling through their phone. Oh, look at that picture of that cat. People love cats and dogs. Use them in your thing. Maybe you've got the dragon from the Dragon Boat staring down a cat over here. It's stupid, but it gets traffic, right? Facebook is where you're going to want to have, a little bit more about your story. Facebook is really about the story you're telling. You definitely want to have video. If you can have video, have video. And so that's why I put this next one here, Animoto. It is a free tool for creating videos. You can sort of create slideshows. I think it's animoto.com. Just create an account on there. You can create slideshows. You can create, you can just talk to your camera and upload that. And then you can put words on the screen if you want to. Remember, captions are important to some organizations like mine. We have people with special needs and disabilities, and we always have to consider the captions. I have content generation on here because the more content you can put out there, the more relevant you are and the more you hit other people's feeds. You don't want them to find out about your event in March and then never hear about you again until August when you start pushing out some ads. That's not enough. They need to be continually reminded, oh yeah, I forgot about that Dragon Boat Festival. It's coming up. That's great. Google ad grants. This is super cool. I have this picture here on the right. SMCR has just been approved for $10,000 worth of Google ads free of charge. So that means that when it comes around to the Dragon Boat Festival, I can start advertising the festival for free. And it's going to start showing up in people's mobile apps. So they might be playing a game and they might see the Dragon Boat Festival. They might be, reading an article on their food, the recipe that they want to look up, and they'll see our event. So you can just see here a little bit. You just have to request access. It's Google for nonprofits. You just have to go in and sort of request. It'll take a couple of days, and then it, right here it said you're approved for Google Ad Grants. Excellent. So I would certainly recommend that, looking into that. Your partnerships go a long way. If you do not have a graphic designer, sometimes that's okay. You can go to your major sponsor at Cedar Point and say, hey, do you guys have the ability to make some photos, to design some photos with this word and that word on it? And you'll be surprised at how many of your larger sponsors would be willing to do that for you. If you have liquor and beer sponsors, a lot of them can go to their distributors and say, or they can go to Corona and say, hey, can you make a sign that says Solomon's Dragon Boat Festival on it? And Corona will just give you that for free with the Corona on the side of the thing. So you have to be a little bit careful about that if you're using, alcohol. But so you can get a lot of free stuff out of your sponsors if you just ask. And leverage the functions of your website. Do you have analytics? Can you see where people are going, what they're doing? One of the things that we were able to do this year that we discovered, we have these fundraisers on our website that, it's more meant for like, if I want to ask all my friends to give money on behalf of SMCR, I can. And I do that at Christmas time. Get, the $5 and $10 donations here. Well, I realized that I could turn that into a fundraiser for every team that comes in. So now Cedar Point has their own fundraiser page with a little fundraiser bar that says our goal is $2,000. And, you can see people donating to it. You have a little bit about the team, and you can even put, if they were in past races, you can put a video on there. So we really discovered a way to raise more money by advertising that team. So you send that back to the team and say, here's your page, here's your own unique page for our site. Plus it's got a little fundraiser on it. So share it with your friends and relatives and coworkers. So leverage the functions that if you don't run your website yourself, check in with your web designer and see what you can do. Because there are a lot of custom designs that you can use. Okay, that is the end of my presentation. I know I was kind of zooming through there, but let me stop sharing my screen. Stop share. There we go. Oh, I see there's a bunch of chats there.
Lots of good info. Lots of good info. So should we just continue? Yeah. And I think what we wanted to do here was sort of open it up for discussion, Q&A, questions, answers. No one's put questions into the chat recently, but I'm going to assume that somebody must have a question or a comment.
Hi, I don't have a question, but this information is so helpful. We're all fundraisers in our organization, and that was a tough lesson for me to learn, but this is such a wealth of information, and it's like so many tidbits that I can incorporate into events. And we are planning a first event for December in Charles County so that we increase our footprint here and we establish partners and relationships. And I realized, Kristen, that there is a new Cedar Point Federal Credit Union coming here in Waldorf.
We're looking to support Charles County organizations.
You spoke all of the love language. And so I'm sitting here and I'm sending teams messages to the group that we just met yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really coming, there's possibilities for partnerships. So such a wealth of information, and I was able to just glean so much that I am going to now take back to our external affairs team to include our fundraising development person and just kind of share. You hit on a lot of the things that we are doing, but you gave me so much more to be able to take back, both of you, and to have us consider. And then I just wanted to talk about the learning curve because of the pandemic and all of the things. Earlier, one of you spoke about having Zoom stream with Facebook. We all had to learn that, and it makes such a vast difference. So really, I just wanted to thank you for that. And Kara, you and your sticky notes, you should see my dining room table. But again, thank you all so much for the information. It was very useful.
You're welcome.
That's one of the things we always say. And even when I worked in a nonprofit and went to Nonprofit Institute classes, is you may read the description and say, well, I generally know this stuff, but it's so worth going if you pick up one thing you didn't know before. And like you said, a whole variety of tips and tricks, and, it just adds to the repertoire of things that you can have. The thing that resonated for me was, Susan, when you talked about, don't do it in a conference room, don't do it in a hotel, bring them to the location. And I started really thinking of all the different organizations and wow, what they could do. And I hadn't really thought about that in that way. So, just even if it's, like you said, one thing. There's a question in the chat about the Literacy Council of St. Mary's is looking for examples of fundraisers for very small organizations. They're just getting started on marketing and developing community relationships. Do either of you have?
Well, I just had a quick suggestion. I dropped this in the chat, the link, Go Photo Contest. It's not exactly a fundraiser. It is a way to have people vote. You put photos, you have people submit photos, and then other people can vote on those photos for their favorite one. You can set it, it's super simple. You can set it at whatever you want, pay $1 to submit a photo and pay $5 to vote on the photo, whatever levels that you want. It's super simple and it's easy to manage. You set it up and let it run. We had done this for SMCR. And at the very end, in order to, like I say, always connect it back to your mission, in order to connect it back to our mission, for the last 30 minutes of this event where we were seeing people, submit votes at the last minute, we were streaming live to Facebook through Zoom. And we had all of our members dressed up in Halloween costumes. This was a Halloween photo contest. And we were all standing there saying, we had some videos playing and we had some nice conversation, and we'd say, oh, we see so-and-so just donated. Look, so-and-so is coming up higher than, they're in first place now and not second place. Let's see if we can change that. And our members absolutely adored that. You could see our members having fun, and you could see the mission, why you're giving money to the mission. And then all these people who signed up, who submitted their photos, they are now contacts for our organization. And half of them we didn't even know. So it's just a nice way, and you could do it a couple of times. Just FYI, people love pet photo contests. That's where you're going to make the most money, your pets.
Amy, you have a good question. I brain dumped a little in the chat. I just wondered if there's like an educator or a founder or a champion of your organization that you could honor and like celebrate, and then gather their network of people to honor them. So it's a Friendraiser. It could just be a coffee, or it could be a wine tasting or something like that, just to bring them together in a unique space. And, the library, or, someplace like that maybe like behind the scenes where people don't have access. Maybe you have some real grateful recipients of your council of people who, really had some literacy issues and have overcome them and are now like really doing great in their industry, or have a great story to tell. You could celebrate them. Maybe you celebrate one a month on Facebook and do a picture with a story and get people thinking about that. And then the other idea was maybe offering a series for what I would call just general adult literacy, right? Like how to read a contract, how to interpret a lease. And I know that that's maybe not your core mission, because you're really trying to teach people how to just basic read, but adults or young adults need to know this information as well. And maybe you can glean some potential volunteers or donors to the Literacy Council, because if you have an expert like a tax advisor or somebody that could, or an attorney that could help do a session on how to read a contract or how to interpret a lease or how to write one, to make sure, because people are in the rental property industry these days, that you might get a core group of people like that, and you're talking about a topic that is teaching them something. And then you can say, oh, by the way, we teach this. Another cool giveaway I just thought for you was like a bookmark, right? And everyone can use a bookmark in some way, shape, or form. And you can talk about your mission, celebrate your successes, celebrate an anniversary, something like that. Adulting, that's a good word, yes.
I wanted to mention one, and I think, Susan, I think you won this actually. A couple of years ago, Sage Point did a photo contest where you recreate your childhood family photos, where like you and your siblings, and then as adults, you come back and you try to, get in the same position, the same clothes and that sort of thing. And I don't remember how it worked as a fundraiser. I know it was a big awareness campaign, because the marketing person at the time, Kelsey Pearson, she was like, how do you get people excited about a nursing home, right? Hard. But her audience wasn't the nursing home age folks. Her audience was the adult children, right? Of the folks who are aging.
I'm going to get the picture. Hold on.
Okay, great. So she did this campaign, and Susan might remember better how the fundraising part worked, but I remember she was really concerned with just raising awareness raising feel good feelings so that when the time came, ooh, what am I going to do with mom? You would think, you would associate fun and good vibes with Sage Point. And this thing took off like wildfire. And Susan, you won, right?
We did. I was so excited. I just showed you the picture. I don't know if you guys can see it again. This is a picture. I was the first in my family to get married. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My one brother is like pushing my other brother in the ear. And this was back in 1992. And I still have my wedding dress. So they had this contest. And I said to my brothers and sisters, I'm like, we're going to recreate this photo. And so at Christmas, I brought my wedding dress down to my mom's. My parents had no idea we were doing this. And my brothers bought like tuxedo t-shirts. And then my sister had this floral fabric that she like draped around her. And we made the adult version of this. It was hysterical. And we submitted the before and after. Really, I think it was a way to get their likes and followers on Facebook, right? So people had to vote. And you could vote, I guess, with money, or you could just vote for the picture. And I worked my networks on Facebook to get everyone to vote for me and my family and my kids. We had everyone involved. We were very competitive. But here's the trick. We have an aunt with special needs who is a resident of Sage Point. And so that was important. And we won, bragging rights. We also won a $200 gift certificate or a gift stipend, which I donated back to Sage Point. So they got $200 out of us. But it was really fun, and we were able to tell the story about why we made the photo, and it still comes up on my Facebook photos. If you want to creep on me on Facebook, you'll probably see the adult version of it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to suggest for folks too, especially like Amy with the Literacy Council, if they're just getting started, feel free to join our PR Marketing Comms Affinity group. We have had people come on for the very first time, barely even existing as a nonprofit. And they're like, help. And everybody on the call, everybody contributes and gives them ideas. And it's just, it's amazing, the collaboration and the cooperation that happens. So, I've maintained since the beginning on those we've had those meetings for 4 years now, monthly. I've always said we are stronger together than we are as individual silos. And even though you may all be trying to reach similar audiences, or some of you may be, or similar donor, that sort of thing, everybody can all benefit from each other's knowledge. And in this group, it's just wonderful. We've literally had people come on and say, I'm just getting started. Where do I begin? And everyone helps. Everyone contributes. So you might consider having someone from the organization join that meeting next week.
If anybody else wants to do a little shout out, like Amy did with just saying like what the nonprofit is, Kristen and I and Kara can maybe spitball with you for a few minutes and just kind of, again, brain dump a few ideas if you're looking for something.
Yeah, and I'll drop my email address in the chat, but you can, and my phone number, you feel free to reach out to me and ask questions. Marketing and social media is my daytime job. And, strategizing all of the things for our business for the entire year, what we're going to do to make money. And so if you need to pick my brain or anything like that, I'm happy to chat.
Cool. We had a class last month on tracking your traffic and marketing, and it was Sheba Smith. She used to work for Springdale years ago. She was worried how she was going to fill up 3.5 hours. She crammed and jam-packed so much information, and she could have kept going. And it was overwhelming. But when I send up the follow-up email for this class, I'll send the page. We have that recorded too. People can, if you didn't, attend that, you can still watch it at this point. So there was some.
Well, now the whole world's going to see my wedding photo because I recorded it.
That's okay. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts, ideas? Keep the conversation going. Everybody.
Oh, here's one thing that I wanted to show you guys that we did at Cedar Point this year, and that you could absolutely use and sell these things and make bank. But we made these little golden tickets for our employees, and we bought these scratch-off stickers on Amazon, cheap. you can make your own scratch offs. So, you know, people buy all the scratch offs, let's say for $5, and most of them are going to be not a winner, or most of them are going to be $1 winners. You're making $4 on every card, you know, however you want to do that. I mean, I designed these myself in an old one as an example, but it was wildly popular with our employees. We didn't charge them. Obviously, we were just giving them money, but I think this would be a great way to do a fundraiser if you're trying to do like a quick, you know, if you're doing a raffle or something like this, is a nice supplement.
Awesome. So I have, Susan, I have your presentations. If anybody wants them, just reach out. And Kristen, how about you?
I'll send them.
Okay, great. So we'll have those. We will have the recording of this. I'm going to say, I can't even tell you. I'm still waiting on recordings from our conference in February. So hopefully not too long for this. What else did I want to mention? We give out also a certificate of having attended this. Organizations that apply for grants in St. Mary's County need that. That's a requirement that you submit something to show you participate in Nonprofit Institute classes or conference. So I'll be sure to get that to you. And what else? Oh, we'll also be sending out an evaluation survey for feedback about this class. And we would love it if you would fill it out. It's not very long, promise. But we take that info and it helps inform future classes and instructors and things like that. So we will take care of that. Maybe not this afternoon, it might be tomorrow. Anyone else with any final thoughts, questions? Everybody falls. We're awake.
Hopefully we didn't put anyone to sleep.
Yeah. I think we're here. We're just, it's, you know, 3 hours is a long time.
Yeah. Thank you guys for putting up with us for that long.
Thank you very much, both of you and Cara, for hosting this. Appreciate all the information.
Excellent. We're glad you came on, and you know, any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you,
everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kara.
Thanks, Susan.
Bye,
Thank you
Kristen.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.